Chapter 332. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the middle of the night, Wei Chou personally led 100 soldiers from the Longdan army camp to transport away the fruits of Lin Muyu's labor, 250 bottles of Dream of the Extreme Peaks, and a total of 298 weapons. Most of these weapons were of the spirit grade, and a few of them were of the mysterious grade. Furthermore, Lin Muyu took out the few remaining high-aged spirit stones in her Qinkuan bag and forged a few mysterious grade level 1 and 2 weapons. Most of them were spears, sabers, and other weapons suitable for killing on the battlefield. It had only been 3 years since the Iha nation's chaos ended. Soldiers from both nations were fighting desperately at the borders every day. The weapon's aesthetic value had finally been reduced to the lowest point. The only thing that everyone pursued was the degree of lethality and sharpness. On the morning of the 3rd day, the Zine Flower Merchant Association officially opened for business. Jin Xiaotang used her past connections and the powerful power of the Jinin coins to promote the establishment. A day ago, there were already nobles coming from the Seven Seas Province, the Cloud Province, the Heavens Pivot Province, and the Earth Star Province. They were all here for the bottles of Dream of the Extreme Peaks and a suitable weapon. Great Deacon, Miss Xiaotang is already waiting outside, Ma Lin, the Gold Star instructor of the sanctum, said respectfully from outside. Oh, got it. Lin Muyu was taking a nap with her eyes closed. When she heard Ma Lin's voice, she immediately opened her eyes and patted the dust off her body. She said, Sir Ma Lin, call all the Gold Star instructors and Gold Star sparring masters to follow me to the Zine Flower Merchant Association to support Xiang. Yes, Grand Deacon. Soon, a total of 7 Gold Star instructors, 5 Gold Star sparring masters, and 3 deacons were ready. They stood respectfully in the hall, waiting for Lin Muyu, the young Grand Deacon. Although he was very young, Jing Shanhe by Li Fu, and the others were already convinced by this young Grand Deacon. Lin Muyu had been in a coma for 3 years. He was now 26 years old, but he had already stepped into the 3rd heaven of the Heaven Realm. He could break through and step into the Sanctuary Realm at any time. Such a genius who could step into the Sanctuary Realm before the age of 30 was unheard of. Moreover, after the battle in Lanyan City, Lin Muyu dared to face the divine Luo Lan, which was something that ordinary people could not do. This made his status in the hearts of the warriors in the cultivation world of the Empire become more and more respected. Great Deacon, we can set off now. Zheng Shanhe cupped his fists. All right, let's go. Outside the temple, Jin Xiaotang waited for a long time with a few guards hired by the Chamber of Commerce. She smiled and said, Brother Yu, if you didn't come out, I would have rushed in. Soon, the opening ceremony is about to begin. All right. Everyone went to the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce together. There were already many people outside the door. Unlike what they had imagined, there were no firecrackers, because there was no gunpowder in the Shattered Cauldron realm for the time being. This was a problem that Lin Muyu had thought about for a long time. In this era of cold weapons, if gunpowder and heavy artillery could be developed, it would probably be enough to reverse the situation. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu had walked through many mountains and seen many mines, but he had not found any trace of sulfur. There was no sulfur in this world, so naturally, it could not be made into gunpowder. After entering the Chamber of Commerce, it was indeed bustling with activity. There was an endless stream of people riding their horses into the Chamber of Commerce. A group of people dressed in luxurious clothes crowded together, commenting on the weapons, potions, and armors displayed in the Chamber of Commerce. Most of the weapons were made by Lin Muyu, but no one knew it. However, the temple and the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce had a close relationship. The world would soon know that Lin Muyu was a master refiner. But even if they knew, there were not many people in Lanyan City who could be a match for Lin Muyu. Xiangyu was one, but Xiangyu did not have absolute confidence in Lin Muyu's victory. After the opening ceremony, it was time for the auction. Jin Xiaotang, who was wearing a red and white dress, gracefully walked onto the stage. She held a scroll in her hand and smiled as she announced the auction's list of items. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for coming from afar to support the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce. The next items to be auctioned are Green Unadorned Blade, Mysterious Grade Rank 1, starting price of 3,000 Jin Lin dollars. Extreme Fire Spear, mysterious grade rank 1, starting price of 4,000 Jin Lin dollars. Fire Fox Spear, mysterious grade rank 1, starting price of 4,000 Jin Lin dollars. Sealing Thunder Sword, mysterious grade rank 2, starting price of 2,000 Jin Lin dollars. She announced 50 weapons in a row, and her face was flushed red. The people below the stage could not hold back any longer. Someone immediately shouted, "When will the auction for Dream of the Extreme Peak begin?" "Don't worry, Lord." Jin Xiaoteng giggled. "After the weapons are auctioned, it will be Dream of the Extreme Peak's turn." Thus, the process proceeded smoothly step by step. There were still too many rich people in Lanyan City. Moreover, there were also quite a few rich people from Heaven's Pivot Province, Earth Star Province, and other provinces. A few mysterious grade rank 1 weapons were auctioned for a high price of over 50,000 Jin Lin dollars. This made Jin Xiaoteng extremely happy. When it came to the auction of Peak of Dreams, it caused an even bigger uproar. The first bottle of Peak of Dreams was sold for 14,000 gold kin coins, and the second bottle was sold for 13,200 gold kin coins. On the second floor of the auction, Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Qin Yan, and the rest were watching the auction with great interest. In the past, it was the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce that earned money. But this time, it was all their own profits. Qin Yan narrowed his eyes and said, "Big brother, look at that person in black who just bid for a bottle of Dream of the Extreme Peak. Looking at his attire, he should be from Lingnan. Could he be a spy from the Iha Empire? Do you want me to take him down?" "No need." Lin Muyu shook her head. "Even if he's from the Iha Empire, he can't make a move here. The Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce is a merchant. Moreover, there are still merchants traveling between Lingnan and Lingbei to this day. So there's no meaning in capturing people here. It will only ruin our own business." "And I understand." However, not long after, there was suddenly a hubbub of activity outside. A Longdan army camp soldier dashed up the stairs and cupped his fists at Lin Muyu. "Lord, something bad has happened. Tang Lu brought a group of 7 Seas City Defense Army and is causing trouble outside. He said that the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce has infiltrated a spy from the Iha Empire. He wants to bring people to capture them. Our people are almost unable to stop them." "Tang Lu." Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and said, "Go, follow us out to take a look. Don't let Tang Lu's people disrupt the order of the Chamber of Commerce." A group of staff from the Longdan army camp and temple followed Lin Muyu downstairs and took a detour to the entrance of the Chamber of Commerce. Sure enough, Tang Lu brought around 300 city defense army soldiers and was causing trouble outside. They were almost at the point of drawing their swords. "Stop!" Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. She walked forward with a slight smile and cupped her fists. "This subordinate greets the Marquis of Lingbei." Tang Lu also smiled and cupped his fists. "Tang Lu greets the Grand Deacon. I didn't know that the Marquis would grace us with his presence. No need to be polite." Tang Lu waved his hand and said with a slightly respectful expression, "Grand Deacon, I just received a secret report saying that a spy from the Iha Empire of Lingnan has infiltrated the merchants and entered the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce. So, I immediately led the city defense army to capture him. I hope that Grand Deacon can let them pass. I am carrying out official duties." "Official duties?" Lin Muyu raised her brows and said with a smile, "As far as I know, the Imperial Army is responsible for the safety of the city. I dare not trouble the Marquis of Lingbei's City Defense Army. Why is it this time?" Tang Lu said, "A spy from the Iha Empire has infiltrated Lanyan City. This is no small matter, so the City Defense Army has personally taken action." Wei Chou couldn't help but sneer. "Marquis, the temple is responsible for the safety of the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce. There is no need for the City Defense Army to interfere. Marquis of Lingbei, please return. Commander Wei Chou has quite the tone." Tang Lu laughed. "A mere commander of the Longdan army camp and a mere 1,000-man commander dares to speak to me like this?" Lin Muyu hinted with her eyes. Wei Chou cupped his fists. This subordinate was anxious just now and lost his sense of propriety. I hope that the Marquis can forgive me. Humph. Tang Lu said indifferently, Grand Deacon, let them pass immediately. Otherwise, I will think that you are deliberately protecting a spy from the Iha Empire. Don't blame me for taking action. Want to take action? Lin Muyu slowly raised her hand and said, Everyone from the Longdan army camp and the temple, prepare for battle. Whoever dares to make a move against us will be killed without mercy. I will bear all responsibility after this. Wei Chou and the rest raised their longbows one after another. Qin Yan also drew his fire serpent spear. The dragon scale armor coiled around his body as he looked at Tang Lu with a grin. Everyone here was the elites of the Longdan army camp and the temple. In addition, there was Lin Muyu with Heavenly Emperor Cultivation. If they really took action, Tang Lu probably wouldn't even have a 10% chance of victory. At this time, Jin Xiaotang, who handled matters the softest, appeared. She gave Tang Lu a graceful lady's bow and said with a smile, The Marquis might not know, but the owner of this Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce isn't me, Jin Xiaotang, but someone else. It's just that because of her, the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce absolutely won't protect a spy from the Iha Empire. Tang Lu raised his eyebrows and said, What do you mean? Jin Xiaotang reached into her bosom and took out the Chamber of Commerce contract. With a shake of her hand, the contract swiftly unfolded and she said with a smile, Marling, please take a good look. The owner of the Chamber of Commerce is Her Highness, Empress Qin Yin. This contract has Her Highness's personal signature and the Empress's seal. If the Marquis suspects that we are sheltering a spy, then it's the same as suspecting that Empress Qin Yin is sheltering a spy. Immediately, the group of soldiers behind Tang Lu all knelt down and shouted, Long live the Empress. Tang Lu was also startled. He gritted his teeth and said, Lin Muyu, consider yourself formidable. Let's go. The city defense troops came quickly and left quickly as well. What the hell is this Tang Lu up to? Lin Muyu frowned. Jin Xiaotang smiled and said, Brother, you might not know, but the Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce, which has the most business in Lanyan City, is actually backed by Duke Lan. Otherwise, how do you think Pan Ding Tian was able to make the nameless Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce rise so quickly after the massacre of the city? We stole Duke Lan's business, which is why Tang Lu came to make things difficult for us. It's all thanks to Brother Yu's move. Otherwise, I really don't know what to do this time. I see. Lin Muyu clenched her fists tightly. It seemed like the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce still had a long way to go to unify the economic lifeline of Lanyan City. Chapter 333. On the first day of business, the Zine Flower Chamber of Commerce earned 21 million Jin Yin coins. Neither Lin Muyu nor Jin Xiaotang had expected such a huge number. It was a perfect start. That night, many suppliers and small chambers of commerce came to discuss cooperation. Jin Xiaotang was overjoyed. She would be busy tonight. Lin Muyu was not someone who was obsessed with making money. He was more proficient in cultivation. Late at night, the stars twinkled. Lin Muyu stood in the backyard of the Grand Deacon's office. He looked up at the sky full of stars and could feel the strong power of the stars. The astral tactics had a total of 9 levels. Lin Muyu had only comprehended the first level, which was far from enough. He took a deep breath and suddenly increased his battle chi. Suddenly, the power of the stars lingered around his body. This was the prelude to the first appearance of the stars. However, he did not condense a killing move. Instead, he used the power of the stars in his body to cultivate his EC. For a moment, all the stars in the sky dimmed. Rays of starlight that were hard to see with the naked eye fell to the ground and slowly entered Lin Muyu's body. If someone paid attention, they would find that the stars in Lanyan City were much dimmer than before. After more than 2 hours, the backyard of the Grand Deacon's office was like a spectacle. Bright stars floated around Lin Muyu's body and slowly flowed. Lin Muyu's face showed a relaxed expression. He opened his hands naturally and 2 blue stars appeared in his palms. At this moment, he was like a god in the universe, able to grasp the vast stars in the palm of his hand. Swoosh, swoosh. In the EC, wisps of blue light and fiery red light spiraled together and slowly generated the power of the stars. Lin Muyu could not help but be ecstatic. This was a sign that the astral tactics had broken through to the second level. As long as the EC could generate stars, then it would be able to enter the second level. The condensing of stars in the EC, as the name suggested, was actually a kind of spiritual power. The integration of the power of the stars into the spiritual power was a higher level of martial arts. Fortunately, Lin Muyu had cultivated the spiritual pulse technique for many years, and her soul was already very strong. Just like that, rays of stars condensed in Lin Muyu's Yi. Her spiritual perception also appeared in her Yi. Lin Muyu looked up and saw that there were more and more stars in her Yi. It was as if all the stars in the sky were contained in her Yi. Swish, swish, swish. A blazing sun hovered in the sky above the sea, and at the same time, 8 small stars hovered around it. This was the solar system? Lin Muyu was shocked. It was indeed the solar system. This was probably the solar system created by the star tactics with her deep consciousness. In the blink of an eye, the distance in the Yi quickly increased, and the solar system became smaller and smaller. It disappeared in the brilliant galaxy and was replaced by the even more majestic Milky Way. The Milky Way was so bright that Lin Muyu was stunned. He could even feel the strong power coming from these stars. It was so powerful that it was the power of the stars that humans could not truly control. Soon, the Milky Way became smaller again and was replaced by a vast nebula. The stars in these nebula were like flames that quickly condensed and fell from the sky, falling directly on Lin Muyu's spiritual body. Lin Muyu could not help but tremble. His body seemed to be on fire. Was this the myriad world stars tempering his body and soul? The endless pain was like cutting his heart and flesh. Lin Muyu could not help but curl up there and wail. Every inch of his skin was being burned and tempered by the star fire. But he had to get through this, otherwise the breakthrough of the star tactics would fail. As the 7 luminaries demon emperor said, the star tactics was more mysterious than the 7 luminaries. This also meant that the cultivation of the star tactics was more difficult than the 7 luminaries. It was millions of times more difficult. After an unknown amount of time, the pain in Lin Muyu's body finally slowly disappeared. The myriad world stars in his Yi slowly circulated, nourishing his soul. He took a deep breath and his spiritual sense flew out of his Yi. He slowly opened his eyes and found that the sky was already bright. The sky was bright. Unknowingly, he had cultivated for an entire night. At the same time, there seemed to be a force in his palm that could not be released. He gently exerted his force and suddenly, with a hua sound, a beautiful silk ribbon was pulled out from his palm. It swayed slowly as if it had a life of its own. But Lin Muyu was shocked. This was not a ribbon, it was a nebula. This power wasn't something the ribbon could compare to. The second move of the star tactics was finally mastered. It was the star chain in his hand. Whether it was toughness or attack power, it was very scary. Lin Muyu did not even dare to fully release it because the explosive power was too strong. He did not want to personally destroy the rebuilt holy sanctum. He slowly withdrew his strength and the star chain like a ribbon seeped into his body. But Lin Muyu also noticed that there was a blue flame lingering around his body. It was the star flame. He was extremely happy. He was worried that there was no stronger flame in the crafting treasure cauldron, and this star flame actually came to him. Tonight's cultivation of the star tactics was a buy one get one free deal. He quickly took out the crafting treasure cauldron and carefully moved the remaining star flame in his body and on the surface of his body into the crafting treasure cauldron, and then slowly refined it. The star flame was not the fire of the human world. It was more violent than the heaven fire, so it was not an easy process to refine the star flame. He did not eat, drink, and could not stay. Until dusk, the star flame finally seeped into the 7th layer of the crafting treasure cauldron and became the 7th layer of the crafting treasure cauldron. Lin Muyu let out a sigh of relief and said loudly, "Guards, bring me my dinner." "Yes, Grand Deacon." The guards who did not dare to disturb his cultivation were finally relieved. It was good that the Grand Deacon was willing to eat, at least he would not starve to death. The dinner was very sumptuous. There was a roast chicken, a braised pork knuckle, and a big bowl of rice. It seemed that the kitchen knew that Lin Muyu, the Grand Deacon, needed nourishment after cultivating for a whole day. It was not easy to have such a meal now. After all, Lanyan City was no longer the Lanyan City it was 3 years ago. After the Iha nation invaded, they burned and massacred the villages and small cities along the way, turning thousands of miles of fertile land in Lanyan City into wilderness. 2 years ago, many people starved to death in the barren land, and now it was not much better. Many people starved. The imperial capital was prosperous, but starving people could be seen everywhere outside Lanyan City. Even the Empress, Qin Yin, was already frugal. Naturally, Lin Muyu was embarrassed to be extravagant. Otherwise, he, who was so hungry that he was about to die, could swallow a whole wild boar. After dinner, he practiced a set of demonic soundboxing to help with digestion. After cultivating the second level of the star arts, he did not feel sleepy at all and continued to cultivate. Once again, he took out the treasure refining cauldron and placed the broken sword left by the 7 luminaries demon emperor into the treasure refining cauldron. Streams of star flames spurted out, surrounding the broken sword and slowly turning it in the air. The flames burned fiercely. This time, from the beginning, Lin Muyu felt the possibility of refining this broken sword. The 7 luminaries demon emperor said that it was a good treasure, but what kind of treasure was it? After refining for nearly 6 hours, it was late at night. Finally, the surface of the broken sword slowly melted. The dust fell gently, revealing the true appearance of the sword. Lin Muyu saw a word on the hilt. It was vaguely the word, "I." What did it mean? Did it mean that this sword would stand tall and never fall? This was a bit too ridiculous. Forget it, I'll refine it first. Her spiritual sense slowly seeped into the broken sword, guiding the fire refining cauldron to continue refining the sword. At the same time, Lin Muyu could clearly feel that this broken sword seemed to be protected by a very powerful force. It was also this force that caused the broken sword to be unable to be refined at the beginning. But now, under the burning of the star flames, this force could not even protect itself. After an unknown period of time, the surface of the broken sword slowly melted. Lin Muyu secretly rejoiced. Finally, it's refined. Not long after, the entire broken sword melted into molten iron. However, it was not a fiery red molten iron. The molten iron was actually gold. It was very mysterious. This was something that Lin Muyu had never seen before, but this was not because of the iron. This was because the molten iron was only 10,000-year dark iron. It could be said to be precious, but it was not rare. But what should she do next? Lin Muyu was in a dilemma. Before the 7 luminaries demon emperor left, he had told her to refine this broken sword and then fuse it with her bloodline. But how was she going to do that? He frowned and continued to refine the molten iron. After an unknown period of time, waves of true yuan suddenly separated from the boiling molten iron. Yes, it was this golden true yuan. Come on. Lin Muyu let out a low grunt and stretched out her left arm, allowing the molten iron to baptize. At the same time, the golden true yuan slowly seeped into Lin Muyu's arm. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain. It was a pain that burned her soul. F***ck, he almost couldn't help but moan. He hurriedly condensed his soul to protect his spiritual sense from being damaged. The golden true yuan seeped into her bloodline at a visible rate. Did this mean that it had fused with her bloodline? Slowly feeling it, it seemed that there was a kind of power surging in her bloodline. At the same time, the golden light around her body shone brightly. The purple gold-gourd martial spirit came out of her body. It seemed to be resisting something. It appeared again. Last time, the purple gold gourd was resisting Buhai's flame wolf martial spirit. What was it resisting now? But this time, the resistance was ineffective. The vigorous power in her body was like a gangster in a nightclub. Ignoring the golden gourd's resistance, it entrenched itself in Lin Muyu's body. This process lasted for nearly 5 hours. Finally, Lin Muyu's body went limp. She knelt on the ground. It was as if all the strength in her body had been sucked dry. When she looked inside her ihai, she found that there was not only the purple gold gourd. There was another golden light slowly lingering in her body. What was that? Lin Muyu was shocked. She hurriedly opened her palm and let out a low grunt, summoning her martial spirit. Buzz. The golden light shone brightly. A golden chain broke out of her body and lingered around her arm like a god. Lin Muyu was stunned for a moment. God-binding lock. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's final gift was actually the God-binding lock martial spirit. Chapter 334. Finally, at this moment, Lin Muyu understood the 7 luminaries demon emperor's good intentions. 200 years ago, in the battle of the 17th level of Purgatory, the founding emperor of the Qin Empire, Qin Yi, died in battle. The power of his martial soul was contained in the broken sword, but it was stolen by the 7 luminaries demon emperor. The 7 luminaries demon emperor kept this broken sword all this time to refine the God-binding chain's martial soul. But in the end, he changed his mind and decided to give the God-binding chains to Lin Muyu as a gift. Kneeling on the ground, Lin Muyu gently closed her eyes and enjoyed the moment of peace as she felt the strong power contained in the God-binding chains. Finally, other than the defensive gourd martial soul, Lin Muyu obtained the world's strongest offensive martial soul, the God-binding chains martial soul. Although it was only the first level of the God-binding chains martial soul, it could at least increase Lin Muyu's offensive power by about 10%. The next step was to find a suitable spirit beast in the dragon-seeking forest and help the God-binding chains advance to the 8th level of the first-grade martial soul. Lin Muyu had the cultivation of a celestial emperor, which was enough to bear the power of the 8th level martial soul. Slowly withdrawing the God-binding chain's martial soul into her body, Lin Muyu knew very well that she must not reveal the God-binding chains in front of others unless it was absolutely necessary. After all, everyone knew that the God-binding chains was the Qin clan's unique martial soul. Even Qin Yi and the emperor 2 generations ago did not comprehend it. After Qin Lei's death, the only person in the world who possessed the God-binding chains was Qin Yin. If everyone knew that Lin Muyu also possessed the God-binding chains, the impact would be unimaginable. Although she did not know whether the impact would be good or bad, Lin Muyu knew very clearly that once she revealed the God-binding chains, Tang Lan and Su Muyun would definitely think of ways to kill her. Since ancient times, the throne was passed down to males and not females. If the world knew that Lin Muyu also possessed the God-binding chains, they would speculate that she was also of Qin Jin's bloodline. If that happened, then the throne might change hands. Su Muyun would not allow an outsider to ascend the throne to his granddaughter, and Tang Lan would not allow someone else to destroy half of the empire that she had painstakingly built up. Taking a deep breath, Lin Muyu smiled. No matter what, it was great news that she had 2 martial spirits. Furthermore, there was a limit to keeping a low profile. Once his life was in danger, all 8 martial spirits would come out to greet him. However, what surprised Lin Muyu the most was that the God-binding chains did not reject the golden gourd. It seemed like it had acknowledged the golden gourd's status as a God-binding chains. On top of that, there was another piece of information: the golden gourd's grade was not inferior to the God-binding chains. Perhaps, under the silent cultivation, the golden gourd already had the strength to contend with a first-class martial spirit. At this time, he finally felt tired. He walked into the office and knocked on the door. He said to the guards outside, "I am going to sleep. No one is to disturb me." "Yes, Grand Deacon, but are you really going to sleep in the office?" Don't disturb me." "Yes, this subordinate obeys." He rested on the reclining chair at the side of the office, and he slept for 3 days and 3 nights. When Lin Muyu woke up, it was already 3 days later. Her stomach was growling with hunger. She opened the door and said, "Prepare a table of delicious food. I want to eat a table of delicious food." A snicker came from the side. It was Chu Yao, who was sitting there in a young lady's outfit. She was reading the morning newspaper of Lanyan City. She turned around and smiled. I have been waiting for you for 4 hours." "Huh, Sister Chu Yao is here. I have been cultivating for too long, so I have slept for too long. Let's eat together later. The kitchen of the sacred temple was very efficient. 7 to 8 people worked together to prepare a table of sumptuous dishes. Lin Muyu and Chu Yao ate together. After eating 2 roasted chickens and a deer leg, she felt 70% full. She patted her stomach and burped. Sister Chu Yao, you do not come without a reason. You must have something to tell me, right? Chu Yao smiled and said, here's the thing. The elixir department has recently recruited many new pharmacists. We have more than 10,000 bottles of precious medicine left. I heard that you and Jean Xiaotang have opened the Xin Flower Chamber of Commerce. So, I want to sell these medicines to you. After you sell them, you can deduct the handling fee and use the rest to fill the treasury of the elixir department. What do you think? Oh, are you here to talk about the percentage? Lin Muyu smiled. Yes, my good you, tell me how much you want. The Dragon Search Chamber of Commerce and the Thousand Victories Chamber of Commerce are too greedy. They want to take 30% of the sales. I see. Lin Muyu nodded and said, then tell Xiaotang that the Xin Flower Chamber of Commerce will only take 10% of the sales. After all, we have just opened a new business. What do you think, Sister Chu Yao? 10%? Chu Yao said happily, deal. I, the Grand Deacon of the Elixir Department, can make the decision. That's good. Lin Muyu grabbed the 3rd roasted chicken and said, power breeds corruption. You have to be careful. Xiao Yin recently sent Feng Jixing to investigate the corruption in the various departments of the empire. Don't let him catch you, Chu Yao burst into laughter. Brat who curses me like that? Don't eat too much. Be careful or you'll get stuffed. It's fine. I have a big appetite. Bring me a cow and sprinkle some cumin on it. I can eat it alive. After a night's rest, Lin Muyu received a summons from the Zetian Palace the next day. He was also going to attend the court meeting. Early in the morning, he washed up and got on his horse. He went to the Zetian Palace alone with the dragon spirit sword on his back. He had already changed into a brand new Grand Deacon's armor. It was not much different from the original, but there were many floating gems embedded around the armor. As a result, the weight of the armor was much lighter, but its defense was not reduced. In front of the Zetian Palace, Zhang Wei was leading a group of imperial guards. He cupped his fists and smiled from afar. Lady Lin Muyu, you're here for the morning court? Yes, Lin Muyu asked. Is Brother Feng already at the Zetian Palace? Yes, go find him. Old Zhang will come after patrolling. All right. Stepping into the Zetian Palace, Lin Muyu found it difficult to find her position. She did not have a military rank and was only a Grand Deacon. This position was not listed in the Empire, so it was slightly awkward. You over here. Fortunately, Feng Jixing called out to him from afar and let him stand beside him. The position of a Grand Deacon was about the same as that of a commander. Feng Jixing looked at Lin Muyu with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Yu's aura seems to have changed. Lin Muyu was shocked. Could it be that Feng Jixing could tell that she had obtained the God-binding chains, or that she had comprehended the 2nd level of the astral arts? What's wrong? There's something different. I can't tell. Feng Jixing waved his hand. Let's not talk about this. I have something to tell you. Oh, what's the matter, Brother Feng? I want to borrow someone from you. Who? Feng Jixing scratched his head awkwardly. Look, other than me, the rest of the Imperial Guards are all boorish people like Zhang Wei and Xiahou Sang. They are as boorish as you want them to be. There's not a single one who is meticulous. However, the Imperial Guards have 20,000 people, so we need a strategist who can take charge. So, Brother Feng wants to borrow a general from you in the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu knew that things were bad the moment she heard this. F***ck, don't tell me you've fallen for Luo Yu? Ha, it's Luo Yu. Feng Jixing hugged Lin Muyu's shoulder intimately. He smiled. There's no need for us to be so formal. Look, the Longdan army camp only has 1,000 people now. It can't be expanded in a short period of time. Moreover, the Longdan army camp now has Fengxi and Qin Yan. There's also Wei Chou, the commander who's skilled in both the pen and the sword. Take pity on your brother Feng. The people under me are really useless. How about this? You lend Luo Yu to me, and I'll give you a jar of good wine from the cellar at home. What do you think? At the side, Luo Yu was also listening. She widened her eyes. Sir, you mustn't do that. Lin Muyu also knew that Feng Jixing was lacking people. Moreover, Luo Yu could indeed do well in the Imperial Guards. However, she was extremely reluctant. You want to bribe me with a jar of wine? 2 jars. Feng Jixing lamented. I can't give any more. I only have 2 jars of good quality flowery wine. All right then. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. Luo Yu, you can go to the Imperial Guards and become a deputy commander. At least you'll be able to command over 10,000 people. At least you'll have a better future than you are now in the Longdan army camp. Luo Yu's tears were about to fall. Sir, you don't want me. How can someone exchange me for just 2 jars of wine? It's all right. You heard what Brother Feng said. I'm only borrowing. In the future, when the Longdan army camp needs you, I'll take you back. All right then. Luo Yu didn't feel good. At this moment, the court officials surrounded Qin Yin and walked into the main hall. A loud voice said, If there's something, report to the throne. If there's nothing, the court is dismissed. Immediately, Tang Lu stood out from the crowd and said, Your Highness, I have a plan. Yes, Markelingbei, please speak. Qin Yi nodded and smiled. Tang Lu bowed again and said, Ever since Your Highness ascended to the throne, the country has been prosperous and the people have been at peace. All military power and positions have been restructured. The previous military ranks have also been reinstated. Only Sir Lin Muyu's State Protector General's ribbon has not been returned to the Ministry of War after he returned to Lanyan City. Therefore, I believe that this matter should be treated equally. We can't break the rules because of anyone. Sir Lin Muyu, please return the State Protector General's ribbon to the Ministry of War Minister immediately. Feng Jixing raised his eyebrows and said, Marquis Lingbei doesn't care about the tens of thousands of Iha soldiers in Lingdong province. Instead, he cares about the general's ribbon in Lin Muyu's hands. Marquis Lingbei is really ambitious and worried about the country and the people. Tang Lu's face was ashen. He was ridiculed to the point of being embarrassed and didn't say anything. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said after a few seconds, The State Protector General's ribbon was bestowed by Imperial Father to Brother Yu. I think, Your Highness. Su Muyun interrupted Qin Yin and said, Your Highness, please act according to the rules. Lin Muyu's gaze turned cold. Was Su Muyun so arrogant that he dared to interrupt Qin Yin's words? He strode forward and took out the State Protector General's ribbon from his Jiankuan pouch. He handed it over to the Ministry of War Minister Xueling and turned around to look at Su Muyun with a gaze as sharp as a sword. He said, Duke Yun is indeed a loyal and honorable old official. Your honest words are so direct that you interrupted Your Highness. If we didn't know that you are Duke Yun, we would really think that you are not an official but the retired emperor. Su Muyun's face turned cold. Lin Muyu, are you mocking me? I don't dare. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, Duke Yun is a 3-generation meritorious official and an important official of the empire. I only revere you and have no other intentions. Su Muyun was so angry that his face turned purple. At this moment, Tang Lan, who was not far away, cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, this old official thinks that we should reduce the number of participants in the court meeting. Officials who are not related to government or military affairs need not participate in the court meeting. Is Duke Lan chasing me out of the court meeting? Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, I'm the Grand Deacon of the Sacred Hall and the adopted son of the late Emperor, Qin Jin. Apart from Qin Jin and Her Highness, no one else has the right to make me leave Zhe Tian Hall. Tang Lan looked at him calmly and did not say anything. Chapter 335. Feng Jixing immediately stood up and said, Your Highness, the Lingdong and Tongtian provinces are still in the hands of the Iha Empire. This general believes that the most important thing to do now is to reclaim all of the land in the north of the mountain ridge. Since the empire's army has been restructured, We must first perform meritorious deeds before we can be promoted, so this general requests for an expedition to Lingdong. General Feng wants to attack Lingdong province? Qin Yin was taken aback. The Iha kingdom still has many troops in Lingdong province. Is General Feng confident? Yes. Feng Jixing nodded and said, but I hope that your highness will allow the temple deacon Lin Muyu to accompany me on this expedition. With him around, even if our military strength is inferior to the Iha country, we still have a chance of winning. Qin Yin nodded slightly. Just as she was thinking, Su Muyun suddenly cupped his fists. Your highness, an expedition is an important matter. It is not child's play. Please be careful. Grandfather, do you have any suggestions? Qin Yin asked. Su Muyun said, the Iha kingdom has at least 50,000 troops stationed in the Lingdong province. Furthermore, the Lingnan province is closer to the Lingdong province than our Lanyan city. Whether it's in terms of sending troops or providing reinforcements, they are much faster than us. That's why this old subject believes that we need at least 100,000 troops to have any chance of success in this expedition. Furthermore, the troops from the Seven Seas province and the Cloud province have already tasted defeat 2 months ago, so it's inadvisable for us to hastily dispatch troops. This old subject suggests that your highness send an imperial edict to the northern border and dispatch Minyulin, who is stationed at the border, to lead the troops into battle. Grandfather, are you talking about the divine might marquis? Yes. Su Muyu nodded. Minyulin has guarded the border for nearly 10 years and has never tasted defeat. His fame has spread far and wide among the barbarians in the north. The fire halberd city he guards has more than 70,000 troops, and he is said to be the most capable warrior in the empire. Your highness can order him to lead 50,000 troops back to Lanyan city, and then transfer another 50,000 troops to supplement him. Qin Yin hesitated for a moment before saying, Grandfather, Xiao Yin actually wanted Brother Yu to be in charge of the military. Although Lin Muyu is an intelligent and courageous general, he is still too young and lacks experience. This old official believes that we can send Lin Muyu to assist Minyulin and have him learn from Minyulin. What does your highness think? Let's wait until the divine might marquis returns to Lanyan city. Prepare a brush and ink for his highness to write the edict. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing looked at each other helplessly. It was true that Su Muyun and Tang Lan could cover the sky with one hand, but they had many henchmen. Lin Muyu, the Grand Deacon, and Feng Jixing, the commander of the Imperial Army, could do nothing about it. Lightly patting Lin Muyu's shoulder, Feng Jixing smiled bitterly and said, I originally thought that we brothers would have the chance to fight side by side. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Don't worry, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. The Iha kingdom has seized half of the country and has 500,000 soldiers. It won't be easy to defeat them. There will be plenty of battles for us to fight. Yes. Feng Jixing thought for a moment and asked in a low voice, how is the Divine Temple's military training going? Feng Shi, Qin Yan, and Wei Chou are helping with the training. The results are not bad, but they can't be used as a real army for the time being. They still need some experience. Yes, I understand. Feng Jixing glanced at Tang Lan in the distance and said with a taboo tone, Be careful. Duke Lan and Duke Yun will not let the Divine Temple's army continue to grow. You must be prepared to receive trouble from them. I understand. Don't worry, I know how to handle it. Yes. After the court meeting was dismissed, Qin Yin called Lin Muyu over, and they went to the rear palace together. Big brother Yu, I really let you down today. Qin Yin pouted and said in an aggrieved manner, I wanted to speak up for you, but the officials didn't give me any face. Lin Muyu nodded. Most of them are Duke Lan and Duke Yun's people, so they can't do anything about it. But at least there are me, Big Brother Feng, Wei Chou, and Zhang Wei in the court now, so the situation should be much better than it was 2 years ago, right? Qin Yin shook her head vigorously and hooked onto Lin Muyu's arm, saying, Don't think about those unhappy things anymore. You're back anyway, so everything is fine. Oh, right, I made a breakthrough yesterday. Oh, is that so? That's right, look. Qin Yin murmured softly, and 7 god-binding chains revolved around her body. Her battle energy quickly condensed into a suit of battle armor to protect her graceful and alluring body. As expected, she was already at the 2nd level of the Heaven Realm. What a powerful aura! Lin Muyu praised. Xiao Yin's progress is really good. Perhaps she'll be able to reach the Saint Domain very soon. I'll work hard in my cultivation and reach the Saint Domain before I turn 25. Qin Yin's beautiful eyes shone with a peculiar light. Why does it have to be before 25? Lin Muyu asked in surprise. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said with a smile, Big brother Yu is so stupid. Don't you know that one of the great abilities of the Saint Domain is to preserve one's youthful looks? Once a cultivator reaches the Saint Domain, their appearance will be preserved at that moment, and it won't change much. After reaching the God Realm, it means that they'll obtain the ability to live forever. Xiao Yin is a girl, so she naturally wants to become stronger as soon as possible so that she can preserve her beauty in her prime. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu was stunned for a moment, and then said, Then you must reach the Saint Domain soon. If Xiao Yin needs any help with your cultivation, just tell me directly, and I'll do my best to help you. Cultivation has always been one's own business, so there's no need for Yu's help. Qin Yin said with a smile, I plan to persuade Grandpa to let me reorganize the Imperial Guard in a few days. After all, the Eagle Nest camp still needs to collect the spirit stones and other things that Zetian Palace needs. Reorganizing the Imperial Guard is a good thing. Lin Muyu nodded and said, The Imperial Guard is the army that truly belongs to the Emperor. It's a pity that almost all the previous Imperial Guard have died in battle. What a pity! Qin Yin tugged at his hand. Don't be sad, everything will get better. Lin Muyu couldn't help but want to laugh. She actually let Qin Yin comfort her, so she stood up and said, Xiao Shi has already returned to Demon Subduing Pass, and there's nothing important waiting for Minulin to come over these few days. I've decided to enter the dragon-seeking forest to cultivate for another 10 days or so. During this time, Xiao Yin, you must take good care of yourself. Also, I'll temporarily let the Longdan army camp enter Zetian Palace to act as a guard, okay? Okay, but I don't know if Grandpa will agree. Don't worry, just give me an imperial edict, and the Longdan army camp will immediately set up camp in Zetian Palace. Regardless of whether he agrees or not, we can't continue to be weak, or we'll only be able to rely on others. At dusk, after making arrangements for the Divine Temple and the Longdan army camp, Lin Muyu left the city in light gear. He put on a chivalrous outfit and spurred his horse out of Lanyan City, heading straight for the dragon-seeking forest. He didn't tell Qin Yin why he was going to the dragon-seeking forest. He couldn't just tell Qin Yin directly that he was going to cultivate the god-binding chains, could he? As he spurred his horse forward, he looked inside his Yi and found that the 2 martial souls in his Qi were actually living in harmony with each other. The golden gourd glowed with a thick luster and slowly rotated, while the god-binding chains shone brighter, like the bright moon in the night sky hovering around the golden gourd. With the 2 martial souls coexisting, the increase in strength brought by them was naturally stronger. Lin Muyu even felt that the strength of his battle energy was no less than that of the first heaven of the Saint region. Perhaps the only thing he lacked was the domain ability of the Saint region, but his 7 luminaries' profound force could break through the suppression of the domain. Coupled with the strength of his battle energy, Lin Muyu wouldn't be at a disadvantage even if he were to face an expert at the first heaven of the Saint region. After comprehending the star arts, he was even more confident that he might be able to defeat an expert at the first heaven of the Saint region. Looking at the entire northern territory of the Qinling Mountains, there should be no one who could defeat Lin Muyu in terms of martial strength. Perhaps Xiang Yu was one, but his and Lin Muyu's odds of winning were at most 50-50. As Lin Muyu continued to cultivate the star arts and advanced by leaps and bounds, Xiang Yu was afraid that he would soon be no match for him. Absolute strength was the biggest reason why Lin Muyu could confidently and boldly enter the dragon-seeking forest to cultivate alone. Tang Lan and Su Muyun wanted to get rid of Lin Muyu quickly, but they didn't have anyone under them who could absolutely kill Lin Muyu. It was inconvenient to mobilize thousands of troops, so they could only let this thorn in their side continue to stay in Lanyan City. After midnight, he entered the depths of the dragon-seeking forest and released his spiritual perception. Using the spirit pulse technique, he sensed every blade of grass and every tree in the surroundings. Not long after, strong fluctuations appeared in the domain of the spirit pulse technique. There was a fire-type spirit beast sleeping in a cave. Judging from its strength, it should be a spirit beast around 2,000 years old. Chu Chu had long taught Lin Muyu that taking shortcuts was the biggest taboo in the cultivation of the martial soul. It must be done step by step. Currently, the God-binding lock was only at the first level and was very immature. Tempering a beast's spirit that was too powerful could easily cause harm to the martial soul. Instead, it would take twice the effort for half the result. Therefore, a spirit beast that was 2,000 years old should be quite suitable for the God-binding lock. Clang! Pulling out the dragon spirit sword, he flipped off his horse and walked over. He stopped in front of a cave but didn't enter. Instead, he quickly activated his battle energy and a milky white battle energy radiated from his body. As expected, the spirit beast in the cave sensed this power. Accompanied by a roar, a flame ironback bear covered in raging flames rushed out. Roar! It raised its sharp claws and slashed heavily at Lin Muyu. Pang! Sparks flew in all directions. Lin Muyu's arm was actually slightly numb from the impact. Good heavens! The strength of a bear is indeed the king of the forest. Lin Muyu didn't let the flaming ironback bear suffer too much pain. She made her move before it pounced on the bear for the second time. She raised her left hand lightly, and a ray of starlight condensed before she struck the ironback bear's chest. Star Arts, first form, initial starlight. Pooh! The powerful starlight pierced through the thick bark of the flame ironback bear and directly crushed its heart. The huge bear swayed and fell to the ground. The pain only lasted for a moment before it was over. Chapter 336. Come out, Lin Muyu called out softly, and the golden god-binding chains emerged from her body and circled around her arm. The indestructible chains quickly absorbed the ironback bear's beast spirit. Lin Muyu stood guard at the side and took out the treasure refining cauldron to capture the essence of the ironback bear's beast spirit. Only by refining this spirit core could the god-binding chains obtain new abilities. In less than 10 minutes, the god-binding chains shone brightly and became much sturdier. Its entire body glowed with a dazzling golden light, and a mysterious power flowed from the beast spirit into the god-binding chains. In Ehai, Lulu flew out and said with a smile, "Congratulations, big brother. The god-binding chains obtained the ironback bear's ability, Strength Enhancement." Strength Enhancement, Lin Muyu frowned. What's the use? Well, Lulu blinked and said with a smile, it can increase the power of the martial soul by about 5%. Big brother, do you think it's useful? Then it's very useful. Lin Muyu was grinning from ear to ear. For a cultivator, this 5% increase in power was very precious. Moreover, Lin Muyu was once a heavenly king in the game, so she naturally understood the principle of no small stream, no river. Many times, absolute power was formed by the accumulation of 5%. She mounted the horse and the god-binding chains returned to her body. She had already gradually fallen asleep. It had absorbed too much power and needed to digest and absorb it. This process could be completed in about 1 to 2 hours, so there was no hurry. Just as she was about to leave, she suddenly remembered something. She immediately dismounted and used the dragon spirit sword to dig out the ironback bear's spirit stones. They were all good stuff. Things were different now. When Lin Muyu entered the dragon-seeking forest, she always thought about the ecological balance. Now was a critical period, and every spirit stone could bring wealth. This wealth could be converted into power, status, and military strength. Don't underestimate a mere 2,000 fire-type spirit stone. If it was made into a weapon, it could be sold for around 10,000 Jinin coins. This amount of money could be used to create 10 top-notch heavy cavalry. Over the next few days, Lin Muyu continued to roam the dragon-seeking forest. The God-binding chain's martial soul was also rapidly growing, obtaining 5 abilities in a row. It had now become a 6-layered God-binding chains. Level 1 ability, Strength Strengthening, increases the martial soul's power by 5%, originating from the 2000 fiery Ironback Bear. Level 2 ability, Rapid Breakthrough, increases the martial soul's attack speed, originating from the 2400 Swift Wolf. Level 3 ability, Strength Strengthening, increases the martial soul's power by 10%, originating from the 3200 Ironback Bear. Level 4 ability, Penetration, increases the martial soul's power by 10%, originating from the 4000 Pangolin. Level 5 ability, Strength Strengthening, increases the martial soul's power by 20%, originating from the 4800 Bloodthirsty Tiger. Level 6 ability, Strength Strengthening, increases the martial soul's power by 25%, originating from the 5400 Umbrella Dragon. These data were all provided by Lulu, the female elf official. As for whether it was reliable or not, no one knew. All in all, the 6-layered God-binding chains had already increased the martial soul's power by a terrifying 60%. This also meant that as long as Lin Muyu summoned the God-binding chains, the strength of his battle chi would increase by 60%. This was probably why the God-binding chains was ranked as a first-tier martial soul. Although no one knew whether the 60% increase was true or not, Lin Muyu could indeed feel the rapid increase in her cultivation. She had even killed the 5400 Umbrella Dragon in just 3 strikes. On the 8th day after entering the dragon-seeking forest, Lin Muyu was still roaming around. She looked at the 24 spirit stones in her heaven-earth pouch with a joyful smile. Although she was killing, these spirit stones could be used to forge a large number of excellent weapons. They could be sold for a large sum of money and make the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce more competitive. The endless follow-up effects would be unpredictable. Beside the warhorse, Icatosaurus twisted its huge body and slowly followed Lin Muyu. Icatosaurus's mission this time was to devour the bodies of spiritual beasts. It had a huge appetite and looked as if it wanted to eat everything in the world. However, after Lin Muyu stopped it, the little dragon finally stopped eating spirit stones. After all, there was a limit to its absorption capacity. Eating too many spirit stones would be a waste. I wonder how Xiaoyin is doing in Lanyan City. Does she miss me? Lin Muyu thought to herself. Beside her, Icatosaurus swayed its huge tail as if it was responding to its master's thoughts. All of a sudden, Lin Muyu raised her head. A powerful aura was approaching from 3 kilometers away. It seemed familiar. When it was about 2 kilometers away from her, the aura suddenly disappeared as if it had entered stealth mode. Heaven Beast! Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. She knew a powerful enemy was here. The Heaven Beast could turn invisible and hide its aura. This was the scariest thing about it. She was alone now, so it would be slightly difficult to deal with it. She looked at the surrounding terrain. It was spring, and there was a large grassland on her right. She immediately came up with a plan. The Heaven Beast could turn invisible, but it couldn't fly. The grassland here was so dense. As long as the Heaven Beast came, it wouldn't be able to hide. He immediately dismounted and led the warhorse into the grassland. He picked up some dry firewood and quickly piled it up. He raised his palm, and the true dragon essence fire flew out to ignite the firewood. Then, he took out the pear blossom spear from his chinkuan bag and stabbed a skinned rabbit into the bonfire to roast. He put the dragon spirit sword aside and calmly waited for the delicious meal. However, Icatosaurus's acting was a bit clumsy. It actually crawled on the ground and looked into the distance. The red crystal scales all over its body slowly stood up. It looked like an angry cat that would go berserk at any time. Not long after, the grassland in the distance rustled and fell down. The Heaven Beast was here. Lin Muyu wasn't in a hurry to attack. When she was less than 20 meters away from the Heaven Beast, the golden gourd suddenly emitted a radiance. Swish, 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 swish. Golden gourd vines broke out of the ground and wrapped around the area. Instantly, the Heaven Beast's blood-red body appeared. With a furious roar, it swung its sharp claws and tore the gourd vines apart. Today's Lin Muyu was no longer the Lin Muyu of the past. His speed was even faster than the heaven beast. He rushed out with his right hand dragging the long sword and slashed down heavily. Bang! The sword slashed on the heaven beast's protective aura, but a bright light quickly separated from the sword and slashed down, light-splitting slash. Roar! The heaven beast was injured immediately and couldn't hide anymore. At this time, Lin Muyu also saw the scales on the heaven beast's head. There were a total of 11 golden lines and 4 yin lines. It was an 11,400-year-old heaven beast. After all, it was a fierce beast. The moment its head was cut open, it tilted its body and swept its sharp claws toward Lin Muyu's abdomen. It wanted to instantly cut open the intestines of this cunning opponent, Lin Muyu. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu was far more cunning than the heaven beast imagined. The walls of the gourd quickly condensed in front of her chest. With the power of the battle armor, it was very powerful. With a bang, the heaven beast's sharp claws tore open the outer layer, but it couldn't hurt Lin Muyu at all. Instead, Lin Muyu borrowed the force to turn around and jump up. When she was in mid-air, the starlight in her left hand suddenly appeared and hit the heaven beast's head from above. Bang! Blood splattered, and the heaven beast wailed. It opened its mouth and attacked with a golden light. This was a pure energy attack. Lin Muyu hurriedly opened her hands and condensed the strongest walls of the gourd to defend. Boom! The powerful impact forced him to take several steps back. The blood in his body surged, and he felt a sweetness in his throat. Blood was already flowing out of the corner of his mouth, but he didn't retreat anymore. He gently raised his left hand, and the power of the galaxy surged and condensed into a 7-colored ribbon. This was a move condensed by the power of the stars in the universe. The second form of the star technique, star chain. The heaven beast didn't know what was going on. It didn't know how strong the power of the stars was. With a roar, it rushed forward, but in the next moment, it was bound by the star chain. The bright stars exploded violently, shattering the heaven beast's scales one by one. No matter how it struggled, it couldn't break free from this seemingly insignificant star chain. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. She gently stabbed her long sword and pierced the heaven beast's heart with a poochie sound. Roar, roar. As it wailed, the vicious beast slowly knelt on the ground, ending its sad life. This heaven beast had occupied this place for at least several thousand years and could be called the king of a region. Unfortunately, on the day Lin Muyu arrived, its reign also came to an end. Lin Muyu dug out the heaven beast's precious spirit stone and threw it directly into her Qiankuan bag. Then she immediately summoned the god-binding chains and began to refine the heaven beast's beast spirit. The moment the god-binding chains broke out of the heaven beast's body, Lin Muyu could clearly feel the martial soul's emotions. The god-binding chains were excited. That's right, it was cheering excitedly. The heaven beast belonged to the light attribute, and so did the god-binding chains. This 1,400-year-old heaven beast's beast spirit was simply a delicious meal for the 6 layers of the god-binding chains. In the next moment, a majestic and endless power poured into the god-binding chains. The refining process lasted for nearly an hour. When the heaven beast's beast spirit was completely refined, its body was almost finished by a Catasaurus. Catasaurus, this big eater, was too strong. It ate everything, even a fierce beast like the heaven beast. Roar! Icatasaurus lay contentedly next to Lin Muyu and began to doze. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu summoned the god-binding chains. The 7 layers of the god-binding chains transformed into 7 golden chains that lingered around Lin Muyu as if they had a mind of their own. Lin Muyu could feel the rapid increase in the god-binding chain's power. After absorbing the heaven beast's beast spirit, the god-binding chain's power had skyrocketed. Big brother. Lulu flew out again and said with a smile, "Congratulations, big brother." This time, the god-binding chains absorbed another power enhancement. It increased your martial soul's attack power by about 40%. That's so strong. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. According to Lulu, the 7 layers of the god-binding chains could increase her battle chi strength by about 100%. No wonder she could kill the powerful heaven beast with minimal damage. She couldn't help but be overjoyed. After returning to Lanyan City, she was a completely different person. Of course, she couldn't touch the god-binding chains lightly. Thinking about it carefully, Qin Lei's god-binding chains were also 7 layers, but its power definitely couldn't be compared to Lin Muyu's god-binding chains. Lin Muyu's 7 layers of god-binding chains had 7 abilities, while Qin Lei's only had 4. Furthermore, it wasn't necessarily a power enhancement ability. This was the disparity. Perhaps, if Qin Lei's god-binding chains had 2 more abilities, he wouldn't have died in battle. Chapter 337. On the 9th day after entering the dragon-seeking forest, Lin Muyu was already on her way back. However, she still hadn't found a suitable spirit beast to help her evolve the god-binding chains to the 8th level. Spirit beasts below 8,000 years old were too weak to be worth it, and spirit beasts above 8,000 years old were not easy to come by. She could only search slowly. Flap, flap, flap. In the air, the sound of flapping wings could be heard. It was a messenger bird that landed lightly on Lin Muyu's shoulder. She took out the letter and saw that it was from Qin Yin of the Zetian Palace. You, Marquis Minyulin, will return to Lanyan City in 3 days. You should come back early too. Xiao Yin misses you. Lin Muyu looked at the meaningful handwriting and couldn't help but feel warmth in her heart. She smiled. Beside her, the Acatosaurus seemed to understand its master's thoughts. It used its head to nudge Lin Muyu's leg, then rolled on the ground happily, as if saying, "I miss Her Highness too." Lin Muyu looked at it in annoyance and smiled. You only know how to eat. Hurry up and find a suitable spirit beast, or we won't be able to catch up to Minyulin's expedition. The little dragon immediately looked at its master and stuck out its tongue, looking like a husky. On the way back, Lin Muyu spread the spirit pulse technique's spiritual sense throughout the forest. When it was close to dusk, they unknowingly came to a barren area. There was not even a blade of grass growing nearby, not even a low-rank spirit beast. It seemed like everything had been eaten. Further ahead was a bare mountain top, with burn marks. Another spirit beast with a long lifespan, or it wouldn't have caused such great damage. After tying up the warhorse, Lin Muyu carried the dragon spirit sword and walked over with the Acatosaurus. Not long after, a huge cave appeared in front of them. There was a raging fire inside, and it was obvious that a spirit beast was living inside. Lin Muyu quickly increased the strength of her battle energy. The golden gourd shone brightly on the surface of her body, and the 7 god-binding chains circled around her. She looked like a god of war. But at this moment, Acatosaurus suddenly crawled in front of its owner, shouting and wagging its tail, as if it was saying something to Lin Muyu. A few seconds later, Lin Muyu understood that Acatosaurus was asking for a fight. It wanted to fight the owner of the cave alone. Can you do it? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. The little dragon whimpered. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, looking very fierce. All right then, don't force yourself. If you can't beat them, come back. Lin Muyu sheathed her sword, crossed her arms, and leaned against a rock to watch the show. Roar! The owner of the cave finally came out. It was a ferocious beast covered in flames, and its body was covered with thorns. It looked like a hedgehog on fire. Fire thorn beast, 10,000 years old, just right. Lin Muyu said lightly. The Acatosaurus roared angrily and pounced forward. A 5,000-year-old sacred dragon challenging a 10,000-year-old fire thorn beast was quite brave. The fire thorn beast's attack method was very strange. It lowered its head and rushed forward, directly using the horn on its forehead to attack. However, with a purring sound, the horn hit the red crystal scale and actually broke off. The red crystal dragon's dragon aura burst forth, and it immediately raised its claws and bit down on its opponent's head. Pooh! The one who cried out in pain was Acatosaurus. Its mouth was full of thorns from the fire thorn beast, and blood flowed freely. Roar! The fire thorn beast bit down on Acatosaurus's hind leg and shook its head vigorously to tear it apart. At the same time, the fire burned brightly, engulfing both the fire thorn beast and Acatosaurus. Lin Muyu wasn't worried about Acatosaurus at all. A true dragon wouldn't be afraid of ordinary fire, and the fire thorn beast's flames couldn't hurt it. Sure enough, just as Lin Muyu expected, the fire thorn beast rushed out of the flames while howling pitifully. Behind it, a Catasaurus bit its own tail, and the scales on its back stood up like blades. The invincible wind and fire wheels chased after the fire thorn beast, and directly ran over its body. Immediately, the scales pierced through the fire thorn beast's body, leaving behind a shocking wound. Roar! The fire thorn beast was, after all, a 10,000-year-old spirit beast, and its dignity couldn't be trampled on. But when it raised its head, what welcomed it was Acatosaurus's second wind and fire wheels, and another bloody wound appeared. After 7 or 8 consecutive wind and fire wheels, the fire thorn beast had already turned into a pile of meat paste. Lin Muyu was dumbstruck. When Acatosaurus became fierce, it was practically invincible. Walking forward, she dug out the fire thorn beast's spirit stones and threw them into her cosmos sack. Acatosaurus crawled to the side, its mouth wide open, and looked at its master with pleading eyes as it wagged its tail lightly. I told you not to show off, but you just had to pretend. Lin Muyu sat down and helped the fire thorn beast pull out the thorns in its mouth one by one. The little dragon placed its head on its master's lap, its expression extremely gentle. A few minutes later, all the thorns were pulled out. Lin Muyu also began to refine and absorb the fire thorn beast's beast spirit. A 10,000-year-old fire thorn beast was enough for the god-binding chains to advance to the 8th layer. Hua! When the god-binding chains emerged from its body, strands of azure astral energy could be seen in the golden light. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be surprised. Had the god-binding chains mutated? It actually fused a portion of the astral energy in its body. How strange. However, it didn't seem to affect the strength of the martial soul. It didn't matter, it could be considered a special feature. His god-binding chains were finally different from Qin Yin's god-binding chains. Not long after, the tempering was completed, and the fire thorn beast once again bestowed him with the ability to strengthen his strength. However, this time, it was only strengthened by 30%. Of course, this was still the data provided by Lulu. Lulu could turn this world into data. Lin Muyu relied heavily on Lulu's data, but he didn't completely rely on it. He knew that this was a real world, and data couldn't represent everything. Many times, a single thought could determine victory or defeat. Looking at the time, he decided to hurry through the night and return to Lanyan City as soon as possible. He had been in the dragon-seeking forest for far too long, and he didn't know the current situation of Lanyan City. 3 days later, he arrived at Lanyan City. Lin Muyu still looked the same. His cultivation didn't seem to have improved at all, and he still looked as lazy as ever. Of course, this was under the premise that he hid his god-binding chain's martial soul. He went straight to Zetian Palace. It was noon, and in the main hall, Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, Tang Lan, Su Muyun, and other important officials were still in the middle of the ceremony. A sand table was placed in the center of the main hall, and on it was a pile of the empire's territory. Head Deacon Lin Muyu has arrived, an attendant shouted. Qin Yin immediately turned around to welcome him, and said with a smile, "Big brother you're finally back. How's your cultivation going?" "It's going very well." Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. "Come, let me introduce you." Qin Yin took his hand and walked into the crowd. She said to a person wearing a general's armor, "This is the divine might Marquis Minyulin. Marquis, this is one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan City, Lin Muyu." Minyulin was a man around 50 years old. His eyes were bright and he seemed to be in high spirits. From his eyes, one could see that he was a rare general, completely different from those pampered nobles. Lin Muyu cupped his hands and said, "Greetings, Marquis." Old K also cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Greetings, head deacon of the temple." "All right, you're too polite. Let's get down to business." Su Muyun walked forward and lightly patted Lin Muyu's shoulder. Marquis Wei's troops have already arrived at Lanyan City. In 3 days he will send 100,000 troops out of the Winter Ridge province. We're afraid that Marquis Wei won't be able to handle it alone, so Duke Lan and I have decided to have you take 1,000 troops from the temple to bring up the rear. Take people from the temple? Lin Muyu was stunned. Su Muyun smiled and said, "That's right. Aren't there training going on in the barracks behind the temple? Since these people from the temple are willing to serve the empire, we will naturally give them a chance." But these people have never participated in a real battle before. They are all new recruits. Wouldn't they just be throwing their lives away? Lin Muyu said. So, Su Muyun smiled lightly, so you will be responsible for escorting the rations and follow the army. Your first position will be the army's rations officer. On the side, Feng Jixing was stunned. Duke Yun, we didn't discuss about letting you be the rations officer? Let's take it one step at a time. Su Muyun twirled his beard and smiled. The rations are the foundation of the three armies. Once it is disturbed, it will affect the morale of the three armies. Therefore, the rations officer is very important. We need a commander who has both ability and integrity. Who else is more suitable than you? Tang Lan said, "You, other than the 1,000 temple soldiers you will lead, there are also 2,000 people from the spiritual fire department who will follow the rations team. They will all be under your command. This time, you are a general with 3,000 soldiers. Don't be unduly humble." Qin Yin pursed her red lips and looked at Lin Muyu with a watery gaze. There was some hope, but also some helplessness. After a few seconds, she said, "Grandfather, Duke Lan, I suggest you send an experienced general to be Big Brother Yu's deputy. Otherwise, I'm worried that he won't be able to control 3,000 new recruits by himself." "That's fine. Who is willing to follow Lin Muyu?" Tang Lan asked. In the crowd, Qin Yen cupped his fists and said, "I am willing." "Little Prince Qin Yen?" Tang Lan was taken aback and said, "Little Prince Qin Yen is also of the Qin bloodline and is also Duke Yuning's only son. Why don't you stay in Lanyan City and at least leave a bloodline for Duke Yuning before going to war?" Qin Yen raised his eyebrows and said, "I, Qin Yen, have been cultivating since young for the sake of contributing to the country one day. My life is not for the sake of carrying on the family line. Your Highness, please allow me to follow Big Brother to go to war. I need an experience. Big Brother also needs someone to advance and retreat together with him." Qin Yin's gaze flickered as she nodded and said, "Qin Yen will be Lin Muyu's deputy. We will go to war together. It's decided." She said it resolutely. Tang Lan and Su Muyun had no way to refute. Feng Jixing was silent at the side, looking like he was deep in thought. Chapter 338. At night, in a private room of an ordinary restaurant within the imperial city. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu sat facing each other. Qin Yen and Zhang Wei were also present, drinking gloomily. This was Lin Muyu's first expedition, yet he had become a logistics officer. This was truly distressing, but what could he do? Even if the whole world knew of his suffocation, he would still become the logistics officer as long as the two dukes took the lead. "Logistics Officer Lin Muyu, I'll drink first as a toast." Feng Jixing raised his wine cup and said in a bored manner. He then raised his head and drank the wine in his cup. Lin Muyu also drank the wine and said, "Brother Feng, please don't tease me." Zhang Wei laughed loudly and lightly slapped the table. "In my opinion, even if you become a logistics officer, Sire Lin Muyu will still be the strongest expert in this expeditionary army. What's there to fear? You'll see on the battlefield. After making great contributions, I'd like to see what reason the two dukes have to obstruct your meteoric rise." Feng Jixing muttered to himself for a moment and said, "I heard the composition of the expeditionary army is very responsible. 50,000 of them are Min Yulin's old subordinates. Another 30,000 are from Muyu City, and the remaining 20,000 are from Seven Seas City. In addition to Yu's 3,000 supply troops, they've formed a new 100,000-strong Yangwei Corps. The name is quite impressive, but I don't know how strong they are." "Does Brother Feng know Min Yulin?" Lin Muyu asked. Feng Jixing shook his head. "I've been a commander of the Imperial Guard for less than 10 years. When I arrived at the Imperial City, he was already guarding the border at Fire Halberd City, so I've never met him. However, I've heard rumors in the army that this Min Yulin has a pretty good reputation. But you must be careful. Don't bump into him." "Why?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Even though Min Yulin is now the divine might marquis, he was born a commoner. It's said that he was a basket weaver in his early years. What he hates the most are the descendants of landowning households, those who rely on their bloodline to rise through the ranks. You're the foster son of the former emperor and also Xiao Yin's foster brother, so it's inevitable that Min Yulin will hold a grudge against you. Well, Lin Muyu filled the cup with wine, drank it up and said, I don't care so much. Anyway, I'm a grain transport officer. It's hard to say whether I can kill the people of Iha country in Lingdong province with my own hands. Besides, there are only tens of thousands of people of Iha country in Lingdong province. They may not be able to confront the Yangwei army head-on. Feng Jixing nodded and said, I think so too. The power of Iha country in Lingbei is declining day by day. Their biggest advantage is the natural stronghold of Qinling. Without Qinling, I'm afraid that the tens of thousands of iron hooves of the Qin Empire would have crushed every inch of Iha country's territory. Zhang Wei grinned and said, It seems that Lady Lin Muyu will definitely succeed this time. Not necessarily. Feng Jixing frowned and said, I always have a premonition that something is wrong. The Lingdong province is too quiet, so quiet that it's ridiculous. It's reasonable to say that the Iha nation should be able to detect it. Moreover, the Yangwei Legion has its own contradictions, and it's not a real unit. Why do you say that? Lin Muyu asked cautiously. Feng Jixing dipped his hand in some wine, drew a circle on the table and said, This is the whole Yangwei army. Half of them are Min Yulin's men. These 50,000 people are divided into 10,000 Celestial Cavalry Army, 20,000 Iron Infantry Camp, 5,000 Holy Bow Camp, and 15,000 Tomahawk Camp, all of which are commanded by Min Yulin's men. In addition, there are 30,000 soldiers of Twilight Rain City Army, commanded by Su Wenyin. Another 20,000 soldiers of Qihai City Army, commanded by Wang Shi. Finally, there are 2,000 soldiers of Spiritual Fire Division and 1,000 soldiers of Holy Palace Army. Do you know how many contradictions there are here? Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, Duke Lan and Duke Yun don't get along well. I guess Su Wenyin and Wang Shi don't get along well, right? That's right. Feng Jixing said lightly, the generals under Duke Lan and Duke Yun are all arrogant and unruly. They treat the capital as their own home and make a lot of trouble outside. A few days ago, Su Wentian's son fought with Wang Shi's son. These two families are like fire and water. I'm not afraid of anything else, but I'm afraid that you will be wronged in such a gap. Don't worry. Lin Muyu straightened her chest and smiled slightly. It's a piece of cake. They don't dare to touch me, or I'll deal with them. Yes. Feng Jixing looked at him deeply and said, This trip won't be very smooth. You've suffered a lot. But don't worry. As long as I, Feng Jixing, am in the capital, nothing will happen. Her Highness Yin's safety will not be a problem. Then, 3 days later, we will see you off. Good. Lin Muyu looked at Feng Jixing's saber and said, The Windcutter's saber is chipped. Big brother Feng, give it to me. I'll help you reforge it before I leave Lanyan City. Really? Feng Jixing was overjoyed. I thought you forgot. Huh, how could that be? I just didn't have a suitable spirit stone to refine my soul. Now that I have it, don't worry. Leave it to me. Tomorrow, I'll send a brand new Windcutter saber to your residence. Don't send it to my residence. I'll go to the Holy Temple tomorrow morning to get it. Okay. That night, according to Lin Muyu's request, Jin Xiaotang sent a pile of 10 millennia dark steel and various forging materials to her. No one knew when Lin Muyu would return from the Lingdong province, so she had to forge a batch of fine weapons to support the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce first. Late at night, the Holy Temple's Grand Deacon's office was blazing with light. Streaks of astral flames were whistling and spiraling in the artifact refining cauldron. Feng Jixing's Windcutter saber was placed in the cauldron. The Windcutter saber itself was made of 10 millennia dark steel. Unfortunately, the blacksmith's skills were very ordinary, and he even failed to refine it. Thus, the Windcutter saber was only a sharp saber, but it couldn't be called a divine weapon. The astral flames quickly melted the saber, and Lin Muyu added a few more pieces of 10 millennia dark steel into the cauldron. Then she used the astral flames to refine the impurities in the dark steel. Streaks of gray starlight slowly rose up, and the 10 millennia dark steel was mixed into the molten iron. After nearly 2 hours of smelting, Lin Muyu had refined the 10 millennia dark steel to its most essential state. Only then did she place the Heaven Beast Spirit Stone into the cauldron. Refining the Spirit Stone took nearly another hour. Fortunately, Lin Muyu's current cultivation was very high. Otherwise, it would have taken at least 3 to 5 hours. Roar! The Heaven Beast's soul sprang out of the raging flames and tried to devour Lin Muyu. Unfortunately, Lin Muyu let out a soft roar, and the image of a star appeared on the surface of her body. She easily shattered and subdued the beast soul. In the next moment, the golden beast soul turned into rays of light and fell into the molten iron of the wind cutter. Lin Muyu continued to temper the saber and let Lulu redraw the mold for the wind cutter. Then the mold cooled down. The entire process lasted for nearly 5 hours. Finally, a brand new wind cutter appeared in front of her. The blade was repeatedly tempered, and 15 composite edges were forged by Lin Muyu. It could be said to be unprecedentedly exquisite. Poochie! The moment the saber fell into the water, the entire office was filled with steam. Lin Muyu reached into the water and took out the wind cutter saber. The blade was glowing, and the soul of the sky beast could be faintly seen. It was the soul of a holy beast. Without a doubt, this saber could be ranked as a holy grade weapon. Congratulations, big brother. Lulu jumped out and said with a smile, "This is a 5th rank sacred rank saber. It is the best weapon Big Brother has ever forged. And Big Brother Feng will definitely be very satisfied." Lin Muyu put the wind cutter to the side and then took out more 10,000-year dark steel and 1,000-year dark steel to forge more weapons. This time, she brought back too many spirit stones, and there was still a lot of work to be done. The next morning, Lin Muyu did not get a wink of sleep. There were 11 new weapons in the office, and the most outstanding one was the wind cutter saber. Next was a 7th level Saint grade long saber, forged from a 10,000 years old fire thorn beast spirit stone. The rest were all mysterious and spirit grade weapons. Overall, this saber was enough to be the Purple Flower Chamber of Commerce's most treasured weapon. Dong dong dong. The sound of knocking and Feng Jixing's voice came from outside. "Great Deacon Yu, Feng Jixing is here. Is my wind cutter done?" Feng Jixing was too impatient. "Come in." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Feng Jixing pushed the door open and entered. His handsome face was full of joy, and there was even some dew on his eyebrows. He said with a smile, "You, where is Big Brother Feng's weapon?" Lin Muyu raised her hand, and with a swirl of battle energy, she hooked the wind cutter and threw it out. Feng Jixing gripped the saber firmly, and he immediately felt a vigorous light attribute energy flowing into his arm. There was even the shadow of a saint beast's soul on the blade. He couldn't help but stare at Lin Muyu in astonishment. "Saint rank?" Lin Muyu nodded. "Heavens, it's really a saint rank?" Feng Jixing couldn't contain his joy. Lin Muyu smiled happily. "Do you think I'd lie to you? How is it? It's light, right?" It's light. Feng Jixing almost rolled around in joy. He gripped the blade tightly and smiled. You've helped Big Brother Feng so much. It seems like I'll have to treat you to a month's worth of drinks." Lin Muyu said, "We'll talk about this when I come back. I still have some work to do. If Big Brother Feng is free, please help me with something." "What is it?" "Go to the Ministry of War and get me 1,000 sets of Royal Army armor. The Holy Palace Army doesn't have any suitable armor and can't make it in a short time. There should be enough in the armory. It's not good for me to ask for it. I don't have enough face. Just do me this favor." "Okay, leave it to me." Feng Jixing turned around and left happily. Lin Muyu continued to forge weapons. There was only 1 day left before they set off. He didn't have much time left. However, when he thought about how he was about to leave the Winter Ridge province and fight with the Iha Kingdom's army again, he was actually looking forward to it. It was time to end the blood feud. Chapter 339. Dawn, north of Lanyan City, at the Yangwei Army encampment, thousands of smoke curled up from the chimneys. The day of departure had finally arrived. The city gates slowly opened, and rows of temple guards wearing the armor of the imperial army slowly rode out. Although they were in charge of escorting the rations, the temple guards were all heavy cavalry. This was something that the other battalions could not compare with. Lin Muyu carried the glimmering pear-blossom spear and urged her horse forward slowly. At the side, Qin Yan was dressed in a white robe. His gaze swept around the surroundings, unable to conceal his excitement. This was the first time Qin Yan was going out to battle in the true sense. Naturally, he was very excited. "Big brother, will we win?" Qin Yan asked. "Of course, the Iha kingdom is not as strong as we thought." Lin Muyu replied with a smile. "Why didn't Big Brother let General Feng and His Highness send us off?" Qin Yan asked blankly. "It's the same whether we send them or not. Have the carriages arrived yet? If they have, we will depart immediately. You guys should be in front of the army." Lin Muyu frowned. There was a saying that before the army moved, the rations had to go first, but Minulin did not seem to understand this. He actually did not let the rations team depart first, and insisted on waiting for this day. In the distance, large carriages filled with rations were slowly being escorted by the people of the Spiritual Fire Department. A high-ranking officer wearing a gold star galloped over and cupped his fists. "General Lin, the rations have been prepared. Should we depart immediately?" "And how many carriages are there?" 150 carriages of all sizes, and there are 300 carriages of rations at the back. However, they are still being prepared and have not been loaded yet. The follow-up team will help us transport them. "Then let's go." Lin Muyu glanced at the temple's Silver Star instructor, Shin Han. This Shin Han was a 40-year-old martial artist who was calm and capable. This was also the reason why Gu Yang chose Shin Han to be the centurion of the temple camp. Shin Han saw through Lin Muyu's thoughts and cupped his fists. "Great Deacon, I will lead 500 brothers of the temple camp to the rear of the carriages. I will leave the front to Great Deacon." Lin Muyu nodded happily. "Thank you, Great Deacon Shin Han." "You're welcome." Shin Han raised his spear and shouted, "Brothers, follow me." Lin Muyu looked to the east, in the direction of the demon-subduing pass. It seemed that Tang Xiaoxi would not be able to make it back in time. Well, she was not idle in the demon-subduing pass. On one hand, she had to cultivate, and on the other hand, she had to deal with the relationship between the demon race and the human race. Perhaps she was the busiest person in the entire empire. On both sides, the flag-bearers raised the war flags high. One of them was the empire's war flag with a dark blue background and golden purple flowers. The other two had the word Min and the word Lin written on one side and Lin written on the other. It could be said that both sides had been taken care of. Lin Muyu, Qin Yan, and the others were the vanguard of the entire Yangwei Legion's 100,000 troops. They slowly entered the forest road, and the neighing of the war horses was endless. The carriages moved slowly, so the temple camp could not move fast as well, and could only follow behind slowly. When the sun rose, the sound of horse hooves came from behind. It was the Heaven Cavalry under Minulin's command. A total of 10,000 Heaven Cavalry galloped past on the road beside the temple camp. The army was neat and orderly, and could indeed be called a strong army. At the end of the Heaven Cavalry, a young general wearing the insignia of captaincy held the reins and galloped past. Behind him, his dark blue cloak fluttered in the wind. Suddenly, he stopped his war horse and turned to look at Lin Muyu, Qin Yan, and the others. The corners of his mouth rose, but he did not say a word. He turned his horse around and chased after the Heaven Cavalry. "Who is this person? So arrogant?" Lin Muyu furrowed her brows and said. This person's attitude made Lin Muyu a little unhappy. In any case, she was wearing the deacon's gold leaf, and its grade was higher than his captaincy, but he was actually so arrogant. Qin Yan said, "This person is Marquis Wei Minulin's son, Min Zhan, the commander of the 10,000 Heaven Cavalry. It is said that this kid is very fierce, and in the northern snow region he is like a wolf, causing the northern barbarian tribes to tremble in fear. But in my opinion, this kid's strength is only SOSO. I will at most need 5 spears to strike him down. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. Ah Yen, you are thinking too simply. The battlefield is not as simple as the duels in the temple. When you are on the battlefield, remember to listen to my orders. When I do not allow you to fight, you must not be rash. Even if you are to fight, you must travel with the troops. Don't fight alone, your life is very precious. I understand, big brother. Ah Yen will listen to your orders. That's good. The march was very boring. The Yangwei Legion did not move fast, and they walked about 70 miles a day. But Lanyan City was nearly 3,000 miles away from Lingdong Province, which meant that it would take at least a month to march there. On the way, Lin Muyu was bored, so she had to run the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll again and again to cultivate the fighting energy in her body. At night, after cooking, she would absorb the power of the stars in the sky to cultivate the stellar tactics. But it was a pity that after breaking through to the 2nd level of the stellar tactics, she could not enter the 3rd level, as if the power of the stars that could be accumulated in her body had reached a limit. But Lin Muyu was patient, so she took it slowly. She cultivated the stellar tactics secretly, for fear of being seen by others. After all, it was too shocking to see a person surrounded by countless stars. 8 days passed in the blink of an eye. The Yangwei Legion passed through Cangnan Province, and they could even see Wugu City in the distance, but this city was no longer as prosperous as before. Tuck, tuck, tuck. The sound of horse hooves came, and a messenger galloped over. He cupped his hands and said, General Lin, the provincial governor of Cangnan Province has sent a large number of provisions. Marquis asks you to check them. Lin Muyu said lightly, Qin Yen, Shenhan, bring a few people and follow me. Following the messenger, they passed through the edge of the army. On the side of the lush forest was a large open space. It was currently the beginning of summer, and a large number of sky cavalry soldiers had stopped to herd their horses. At the same time, they took off their armor to cool down. It was indeed too tough to wear heavy armor on such a hot day. Behind the sky cavalry were rows and rows of carriages filled with rations. Each carriage was escorted by 10 soldiers from Cangnan Province. These soldiers were naturally under Lin Muyu's command. After checking, there were a total of 1,000 carriages, and they were all accepted. At this time, a senior officer rode over from a distance. He had a white beard and was an old general who was at least 60 years old. He held a saber in his hand and carried a longbow on his back. This old general seemed to know Lin Muyu. He stepped forward and cupped his hands and said with a smile, Young general, greetings. We meet again. Lin Muyu looked at him in astonishment. After careful identification, she suddenly realized and said with a smile, It's General Su Ying. Why are you also in the Yangwei Legion? I didn't know. Su Ying laughed and said, It's a long story. Let's talk about it on the way. The two of them walked side by side. Su Ying was followed by dozens of cavalry archers. He looked at Lin Muyu with a smile and said, 3 years ago, before the battle at Lanyan City, I was dispatched to Muyu City to serve. Later, General Min Yulin did not abandon me and appointed me as the commander of the Divine Bao Battalion that he led. Now, 3 years have passed in the blink of an eye, and I have also been the commander of the Divine Bao Battalion for 3 years. The battle at Lanyan City, sigh. Lin Muyu said, It's all in the past. It's fine now. Su Ying nodded heavily and said, Fortunately, young general is fine. It's like the heavens are blessing the empire. The late Emperor Qin Jin is protecting you. Lin Muyu smiled gently and lowered her eyes. She said, General Su, it's great to see you this time. However, I'm no longer a young general. I don't even have the rank of a corporal. You see, I'm just a grand deacon of the temple. The army that I lead is also the temple army. Su Ying laughed and said, In the eyes of this old general, you will always be the young general. By the way, young general, this is your first time taking on the heavy responsibility of transporting rations. How do you feel? Lin Muyu smiled confidently and said, Don't worry. Each person's rations weigh about 2 caddies every day. The 100,000 people of the Yangwei army have to eat 200 carts of rations every day. However, we've gradually replenished it. Now, there are more than 2,500 carts of rations following us. It's enough to last them for half a month. Then I'm relieved. Su Ying narrowed his eyes and smiled meaningfully. Young general, you are the adopted son of the emperor and the grand deacon of the temple. Your identity is special. The rations are also the most important thing for the army. Don't make any mistakes. I know. Thank you for the reminder, old general. Lin Muyu cupped her fists gently. In fact, she knew in her heart that whether it was Min Yulin, Su Wenian, or Wang Shi, they were all waiting for her to make a mistake. Along the way, Lin Muyu went to Min Yulin's tent once every 3 days to submit orders. It was quite safe. Finally, after 33 days, they entered the territory of Lingdong province. However, what everyone didn't expect was that it actually snowed in Lingdong province. It rained in early summer. No wonder this province's grain production was less than 10% of Lanyan cities. That was why it was reduced to such a barren land. The official road had already become blurry and almost disappeared. In front of them was a field of wild grass. Lin Muyu and Qin Yan rode their horses to the top of the soil slope and looked into the distance. The interior of the Winter Ridge province was a stretch of barren land, like a huge basin. Furthermore, this basin was really big enough. Its territory was at least 2 to 3 times the size of the North Ridge province. Qin Yan looked at the weeds on the slope and frowned. Big brother, there's no road here. How can the convoy pass through? If there's no road, then pave the road. Lin Muyu said, send people to cut down trees and pave the slope to make a road. Don't let the wheels sink into the mud. Otherwise, it'll be really troublesome. As he spoke, he looked up at the sky. Snowflakes fell on his cheeks. The empire was about to reclaim Lingdong province, but the heavens didn't seem to be on their side. Qin Yan and Chen Han turned and left, ordering the soldiers of the temple camp to cut down the trees on both sides. Lin Muyu urged his horse to the center of the army and cupped his fists. Logistics officer Lin Muyu pays his respects to Marquis Wei. A guard said, the Marquis is in the center of the formation. Come over, milord. Chapter 340. Under the banner, Min Yulin, clad in golden armor and wielding a saber, stared at the heavy snow. Not far away, Lin Muyu galloped over and cupped his fists. Marquis Wei, there's no more road ahead. The supply carts will have to pave a new road before they can move forward, so the journey will definitely be affected. I'm afraid it will affect the battle plan, so I came to report. I understand. Thank you for your hard work, General Lin. Min Yulin smiled. It's fine. Every soldier at the front has brought 3 days' worth of rations, and it's less than a day's journey from here to Winterfrost City in the Lingdong province. I plan to order the 3 armies to move quickly and surround Winterfrost City first. General Lin, your supply carts can move slowly. It's fine as long as they reach Winterfrost City in 3 days. Very well. This subordinate will take his leave. Very well. Late at night, all 3,000 supply carts finally crossed the obstacle and entered the plains. However, the snow had melted and left the ground covered in mud. Many of the carts had already sunk into the ground. Thud, thud, thud. The galloping of the horses continued. Lin Muyu got off the horse beside one of the grain carts. With a glance, she noticed that the axles of the grain carts were all covered in mud. Even 10 soldiers could not move it at all. A 10-man squad leader looked at him in fear. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. He used the handle of the pear blossom spear to remove the mud around the wheels and then placed his hand on the undercarriage. All right, push with me. Yes, my lord. The snow continued to fall, but Lin Muyu's combat aura prevented the snowflakes from falling on his cloak. It was a spectacular sight. A heavenly realm expert's combat aura was naturally not something an ordinary person could compare to. The cart creaked out of the mud pit, and Lin Muyu quickly cut down the trees on the side to fill the pit. Beside him, the Silver Star instructor Shen Han's eyes were red. Chief Deacon, the Empire has really let you down. You shouldn't have done this here, Lin Muyu was slightly taken aback. He then patted his shoulder and smiled. What shouldn't I? Let's go. Make sure the carts move smoothly and catch up to the main force as soon as possible. Yes, my lord. The results surprised Lin Muyu. The Lingdong province was almost completely barren. There was not a single person within 100 miles. Not only did they have to pave roads along the way, they also had to pave bridges. In the end, it took a full 5 days for the rations to reach Winterfrost City. The heavy snow had stopped, and the sky was clear. In the distance, a scout team of the Yangwei army galloped over. The leader said with a black face, General Lin, your grain team is late. If they don't come, we can only eat tree bark. I'm sorry, it's been a tough journey. Come with me, Marquis Wei wants to see you. Yes. Less than 10 miles ahead was the camp of the Yangwei Legion. Along the way, he saw many wounded soldiers. It seemed that there had been a battle here. Looking from afar, the flag of the Iha nation was still fluttering in the sky above Winter Frost City. Inside the central tent, Min Yulin, Min Zhan, Su Wenin, and Wang Shi all wore cold expressions on their faces. Lin Muyu entered the tent, took out her waist token, and said, 3,000 carriages of grain have arrived. Wang Shi's eyes turned cold. Grand Deacon, do you know that they have been late for 2 days? According to military law, they should be beheaded. Lin Muyu looked at him indifferently. She didn't speak, but her eyes revealed a sense of pride. At this time, Du Hai, the vanguard of the front army, cupped his fists and said, My lord, Lingdong province is different from other provinces. There are no roads at all. It's understandable that they missed the deadline. Please forgive Lady Lin Muyu. It's fine. Min Yulin waved his hand and said, General Lin, please sit down. There were more than 20 generals in the central tent, but Lin Muyu's seat was arranged at the end. Min Yulin said, Although Winterfrost City is a small city, it's very sturdy. If the Iha rebels insist on defending the city, we will only suffer heavy losses if we force our way in. What do you all think we should do? Su Wenin cupped his fists and said, My lord, our scouts have confirmed that there are only 10,000 Iha soldiers in Winterfrost City. They are surrounded by us and are in a desperate situation. In my opinion, why don't we send envoys into the city to persuade them to surrender? The Iha captaincy in the city is Wuxia Lin, a former general of Heaven's Pivot Province. As long as he is willing to surrender, the Empire will take him back in and restore him to his position. What do you all think? Min Yulin's eyes were cold. The Empire doesn't need traitors. They should have known this would happen to them when they abandoned the Empire for the Iha nation. That's right. Su Wentian's eyes were full of smiles. This subordinate is only talking about luring them to surrender. As for how they will be dealt with after they surrender, that's up to you, my lord. The city is lacking in rations, and they won't be able to hold out for long. Very well. Min Yulin nodded with a smile. We'll do as you say. Send someone to persuade them. Yes, my lord. Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. She knew that the lives of the 10,000 Iha nation soldiers would be lost. As expected, the gate of Winterfrost City was opened at night. Wuxia Lin led the guards out of the city in person, holding the seal of Winterfrost City in his hand. His face was pale. He used to be a general of the Empire, but after he surrendered to the Iha nation, he had now surrendered to the Empire again. Naturally, he was a villain in everyone's eyes. Marquis Wei Minyulin slowly dismounted and took the seal from Wuxia Lin's hands. He looked at him coldly and said, General Wuxia, the Wuxia family has guarded Heaven's Pivot Province for several generations. Why did you submit to the rebels of the Iha nation? Wuxia Lin couldn't speak, and his face alternated between green and white. Min Yulin waved his sleeves and said, Enter the city with the army and disarm all the Iha nation soldiers. Yes, my lord. Everyone quickly spurred their horses into the city. As the accompanying general, Lin Muyu also followed them into Winterfrost City. Behind them, the rations team quickly entered the city. Although Winterfrost City was a small city, there were already many tents built around it. Although this city had been through the baptism of war, it seemed that the civilians in the city were already used to it. Every one of them had a blank look on their faces. On the plaza, torches were raised high as a group of Iha Nation soldiers stacked their weapons together. They then stuffed their palms into their tattered armor to keep warm. Judging from their attire, many of them didn't even have a full set of military uniforms. Some of them were only wearing the Iha Nation's armor, but the clothes underneath were actually dark blue imperial uniforms. They didn't even have time to change out of their clothes before they switched sides again. It was quite amusing to think about it. It seems that the Iha Nation's army also has soldiers who are unloved by their fathers and mothers, Lin Muyu said indifferently. Old General Su Ying couldn't help but laugh. How many people can a commander-in-chief like Qin Yi care about? Although the Iha Nation preaches all living things are equal and all people are benevolent, many of the Empire's soldiers who surrender to the Iha Nation are nothing more than stepmothers. Clearly, the 10,000 men under Yuqi Lin are like this. As if hearing Su Ying's words, Yuqi Lin's face turned ashen. The old general is right, but Marquis, since we've already surrendered to the Empire, I must say that we shouldn't stay in Winter Frost City for long. Why? Min Yulin asked indifferently. Yuqi Lin cupped his fists. The Manchus, ranked fourth among the 7 marshals of Iha Nation, have gathered 70,000 soldiers in Tongtian province and are heading for Winter Frost City. These 70,000 are the elites of Iha Nation, and Winter Frost City is just an isolated city with very little food. Even though we have the advantage in numbers, we may not be a match for the Manchus. Manchus? Min Yulin's eyes were full of disdain. That's the son of Marquis Manning of the Setting Sun. How can a fat piece of trash like him lead an army? Heh, I'm not leaving. I'll wait for the Manchus in Winter Frost City. Marquis. Yuqi Lin wanted to say something but stopped. Min Yulin looked expressionlessly at the 10,000 unarmed Iha Nation captives on the square. Suddenly, a murderous glint flashed across his eyes. General Su, have the 5,000 men of the Divine Archer Battalion prepare their bows and arrows. Give them 50 arrows each. Su Ying nodded. Yes. Min Zhan was taken aback. Father, didn't we take the city already? What are we going to do? Min Yulin didn't answer. General Feng Che of the Iron Infantry Battalion, listen up. Order the Iron Infantry Battalion to surround the captives and block them with shields. Yes, Mark. Che Taifeng nodded. Min Yulin turned around and left. Kill all the Iha Nation captives in the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Cut off their heads and hang them on the walls around Winter Frost City. This will chill the morale of the Manchurian army. Yuqi Lin trembled. He hurriedly knelt on the ground and shouted, please don't. They're soldiers of the Empire, and they're just following orders. They have parents, wives, and children. You can't slaughter them like this, you can't. As a soldier of the Empire, you should know what loyalty is. General Yuqi Lin, don't say anything else. Otherwise, you'll join them. Min Yulin didn't say anything else. Yuqi Lin knelt on the ground, trembling. His face was full of humiliation and indignation. Qin Yen clenched his fists. The flickering flames reflected in his eyes. He turned to Lin Muyu and asked, Big brother, are we just going to watch Min Yulin kill 10,000 captives? Why don't you go persuade them? Once they're killed, will any Iha Nation soldiers dare to surrender to the Empire in the future? Lin Muyu pressed her hand on the hilt of her sword. After a moment of silence, she said, Yen, have you ever thought about what it was like for these Iha Nation soldiers who claim to have parents, wives, and children to slaughter defenseless civilians in Lanyan City? Did they ever think about mercy at that time? Big brother, Qin Yen was dumbfounded. Lin Muyu patted his shoulder lightly. You should know how much food 10,000 people need to eat every day, right? Qin Yen was speechless. Not long after, screams rose and fell. 10,000 Iha Nation soldiers were shot to death by arrows. They resisted hopelessly and charged at the Iron Infantry Battalion's shield formation, only to have their bodies pierced by spears. Fresh blood instantly filled the entire western square of Winter Frost City. Chapter 341. The next morning, when Lin Muyu walked out of the barracks, Many soldiers in the square were carrying water to wash the blood-stained ground. Even more people were transporting the corpses out of the city to be buried. The heads of the Iha soldiers had been chopped off one by one and hung outside the city walls with ropes, swaying slowly in the cold wind. It was a particularly terrifying scene. Min Yulin brought Qin Yan and Shen Han to inspect the granary. 3,000 carriages of rations were all piled up. It seemed like he was really planning on waiting for the Iha army to arrive. The old general, Su Ying, held a bowl of soup in one hand and 5 pieces of flatbread in the other. He chewed on the flatbread as he walked over and smiled. "Young general, have you eaten breakfast?" "I have." "General, you have a good appetite." Lin Muyu smiled. Su Ying laughed. "It's all right. I don't have the strength to fight if I don't have an appetite. When I can't even draw my bow, the Marquis will probably not need me anymore." Lin Muyu said, "General, does the Marquis really plan on staying here indefinitely?" "It seems so. Is no one going to persuade him?" "What's wrong?" Su Ying asked. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "The supply wagons from Cangnan province and Dubhe province have to travel a long way. It's even more inconvenient to enter Lingdong province, and Winterfrost City is so barren. We won't be able to hold out for long. The longer the Marquis waits here, the closer we are to failure." "Su Ying said nervously, "General, you can't say that. It'll be troublesome if the Marquis's men hear it. Actually, there isn't much to be gained from this expedition. It's rare that the 70,000 Iha rebels are here. The Marquis naturally wants to take credit for it. Otherwise, the Marquis won't have much of a foothold in the court." Lin Muyu sighed. "Then there's no other way. I'll do my best to keep the rations flowing. Let's hold on for as long as we can." On the evening of the next day, a horse galloped into Winterfrost City and went straight to the camp of the Holy Temple camp. After entering the military tent, he said hurriedly, "Great Deacon, something terrible has happened." "What's wrong?" Lin Muyu put down the copper Jew in her hand, and the hot tea inside rippled. The messenger reported with a pale face. A convoy from Cangnan province was intercepted about 20 kilometers away from Winterfrost City. All the provisions were burned. None of the entourage survived. They were all killed. "Ah!" Lin Muyu was shocked. "Who did it?" "This subordinate does not know." Qin Yan said in a low voice, "Big brother, let's go take a look?" "Yes, we'll set off immediately with 100 people." "Yes." A group of people galloped out of the city and disappeared in the cold wind in the blink of an eye. In the middle of the night, everyone lit up torches to light up the nearby roads. 20 kilometers was not far. Lin Muyu spread out her spirit pulse technique, but all she sensed was dead silence. Before they arrived, she could already smell the thick smell of blood and burning. In the wilderness, hundreds of rations had all been burned, and the soldiers responsible for escorting them were all lying on the ground. Lin Muyu got off the horse and checked the wounds of the dead. Some had their throats slit, some had their arms bitten off, and some had half of their bodies eaten. The dark red blood seeped into the soil. "It looks like they were attacked by wild beasts," Qin Yan said. Lin Muyu shook her head. "No, if it was a wild beast, it wouldn't burn the rations. This is man-made, and it's someone who looks like a wild beast." Shen Han said, "Great Deacon, could it be someone from Iha Nation?" "It shouldn't be. Although the people from Iha Nation are cruel, they only kill people, not eat them. Or could it be a wild beast tamed by the people from Iha Nation? It can't be either. Taming wild beasts is not as easy as you think, and..." Lin Muyu looked at the dark wilderness. Suddenly, his spiritual sense trembled and his heart skipped a beat. "Something is coming," he said. "What is it?" Qin Yan quickly raised his spear and stood in front of Lin Muyu. "No, it left again." In the spirit pulse technique, the energy fluctuation quickly left. He quickly pulled out the dragon spirit sword and said, "I'll chase after it. You guys stay here and don't leave." "Big brother, I'll go with you," Qin Yan said in a low voice. "No, don't be lured away. Don't leave until I return. Yen and Lord Shenhan, stay here and be on guard with everyone else." The warhorse snorted in the dark night. Lin Muyu ran for nearly 3 miles in one breath, and was getting closer and closer to that extremely powerful aura. However, the surroundings were pitch black, and he couldn't see anything clearly. He could only rely on the spirit pulse technique to act as his eyes. When he reached a patch of weeds, the reaction from the spirit pulse technique was extremely intense, and that aura became even more ruthless. Lin Muyu slowly pulled out the dragon spirit sword, and a thick flame appeared on the blade. The warhorse seemed to be startled, and suddenly stood up and neighed loudly. Lin Muyu immediately flipped off the horse, and his battle boots stepped on the wet ground after the snow. Hiss, hiss, a hair-raising sound came from beside his ears. Suddenly, a black figure pounced over from the bushes in the distance, accompanied by the sound of flapping wings. Lin Muyu hurriedly raised his head. Under the light of the dragon spirit sword, he saw an ugly human. His entire body was covered in hard armor, and his face didn't even look like a human's. He had a huge body, and was at least 25 meters tall. Both of his arms were holding a heavy battle axe, and he swung the axe down from the sky. Buzz! The golden gourd suddenly appeared, and the wall of the gourd blocked the opponent's attack. Bang! Under the splashing of energy, the attacker was forced to retreat again and again. However, Lin Muyu also felt his blood boil. What a strong, strange strength. What exactly was this thing? The monster grabbed the battle axe with both hands and panted in a low voice. Under the light of the dragon spirit sword, Lin Muyu could clearly see that this monster actually had 4 legs, and 4 powerful giant legs were wrapped in hard armor. Moreover, the carapace on his back spread open, and there were actually a few wings, just like a beetle. What the hell is this? Lin Muyu gritted his teeth, and his nose was filled with an unpleasant smell. This smell originated from the aura of this monster. Did this thing not like to bathe, or had it never bathed before? The monster also looked at Lin Muyu, and a pair of pitch-black eyes filled with ruthlessness. Suddenly, he swung the battle axe again, and swept it horizontally. This time, Lin Muyu didn't use the wall of the gourd. Instead, he lowered his head and used his advantage in speed to dodge the attack of the battle axe. At the same time, his right hand flipped, and the golden god binding chains broke through the air and lingered around the dragon spirit sword. Suddenly, the sword swept across. Gotcha! Although the carapace on this monster's leg was hard, it was definitely not as sharp as the dragon spirit sword, which was supported by the god binding chains. In the blink of an eye, a hairy leg full of pincers was chopped off. Hiss, hiss. The monster let out a miserable hiss and quickly chopped the battle axe off his head. Lin Muyu had experienced this kind of monstrous strength before, so naturally he wouldn't take this axe head-on. As he retreated, he saw this monster flapping his wings and flying away. Just as he was about to use falling star steps to pursue, his spiritual perceptions suddenly detected a few more equally ruthless auras in the distance. So there were more of these monsters. Lin Muyu hurriedly stopped. She couldn't continue chasing. She could deal with one, but she wouldn't be able to deal with more. Moreover, there were more and more of these auras in the spirit pulse art. There were at least 100 of them, and she couldn't fight them head-on. Turning around, she chopped off a vine and tied the monster's short leg. Holding the short leg, she mounted the horse and galloped straight in the direction of Qin Yan, Shen Han, and the others. When she saw the flickering torches in the distance, Lin Muyu also relaxed. These monsters didn't attack Qin Yan and the others. This could be considered a blessing, right? Big brother, did you find it? Qin Yan went up and asked. Lin Muyu lifted the monster's short leg and said, "The one that attacked the caravan was a type of monster. I only had time to chop off one of its legs before it escaped." Monster? Qin Yan was stunned. "Don't say any more. Return to Winterfrost City immediately and meet the Marquis with me." Winterfrost City, City Lord Hall. This short leg covered in carapace was placed on the table and surrounded by a group of generals. The corners of Wang Shi's mouth rose as he said with a smile, "Madam Lin Muyu, are you trying to tell us that this is the monster that intercepted our men and burned our rations?" Are you trying to tell the Marquis to retreat and hand over Winterfrost City to the Iha nation without accomplishing anything? That's not what I mean. Lin Muyu looked humbly at Min Yulin and said, Marquis, I've fought with this monster before. Its strength is extremely great, far beyond what ordinary imperial soldiers can withstand. That's why nearly 2,000 people from the grain transport team were slaughtered without the slightest damage. Min Yulin said, Chief Attendant, how is the monster's strength compared to yours? I can kill it. Then that's it. Since Chief Attendant can kill it, why should you be afraid of it? There are many of them, Lin Muyu said indifferently. Perhaps tens of thousands, and they seem to have some premeditated plan. There's no need to say more. Min Yulin raised his hand and said, I will order the entire city to be under martial law. However, this is a battle between the Empire and the Iha nation. We will not stop until the Manchus arrive. Send a letter to Tsangnan Province and Yunzhong Province and continue to urge them for rations. Yes. Min Zhan nodded and said, Father, do we need to send more men to protect the rations? Send the Sky Cavalry to protect the rations. Min Yulin looked deeply at Lin Muyu and said, Chief Attendant, you should stay in the city. After all, if there really are tens of thousands of monsters outside, it won't be good for you to be scared out of your wits. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh, her clear eyes unable to conceal the disappointment in them. She looked at Min Yulin and said, Since the Marquis insists on doing things his own way, I won't say anything else. I won't come to this central tent again. Take care of yourself, Su Ying hurriedly said, Chief Attendant, you, Min Yulin said indifferently, let him go. The Yangwei army needs no cowards. Lin Muyu turned around and walked out of the central tent with an indescribable grievance in his heart. He hoped that the imperial army would be invincible and that they could seize the world for Qin Yin, but it was too difficult. Chapter 342. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. Finally, the sound of war drums could be heard from afar. The 70,000-strong army of Iha nation had arrived. The 70,000 soldiers of the Iha kingdom stirred up a cloud of dust as they lined up in the north of Winterfrost City in a neat formation. Banners filled the sky, tens of thousands of horses neighed in unison, and the blades of swords, spears, swords, and halberds shone with a terrifying luster under the sun. Dong dong dong. On the city wall, the drums of the Yangwei Legion thundered, and the 4 northern city gates opened at the same time. 10,000 celestial cavalrymen took the lead to go out of the city, followed by 20,000 soldiers of the Iron Infantry Battalion, 5,000 soldiers of the Divine Bow Battalion, and 15,000 soldiers of the Tomahawk Battalion. After a long time, a total of 50,000 elites of the Yangwei Legion quickly set up a confrontation with their opponents outside the city. The Divine Might Mark Min Yulin stood majestically at the city gates, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword as he gazed at the Iha Kingdom army in the distance. Behind him, a group of commanders and above were already lined up. Su Wendian said respectfully, Marquis, are we really going to fight the traitors of Iha country outside the city? That's right. Min Yulin's deep eyes flickered with hatred as he said, not only did the Iha Kingdom's traitors kill His Majesty, but they also caused the Empire to fall apart. Today, I will defeat them on the battlefield. I want to see just how capable the Manchus are. Su Wendian was stunned. He cupped his fists and laughed. The Marquis is wise. 7 Seas City Commander Wang Shi's eyes also trembled, but he didn't say anything. Everyone had their own thoughts. Some hoped that Min Yulin's army would win, while others hoped that he would lose. About 100 meters away from Min Yulin's viewing platform, Lin Muyu, Qin Yan, and the rest of the temple camp were also watching the battle from the city walls. As the war drums beat faster and faster, the battle had finally begun. Amidst the flying dust, Che Taifeng waved his war flag, and 10,000 iron infantry camp soldiers raised their shields and spears and advanced step by step, protecting the Divine Bow camp soldiers behind them. At the same time, the Iha country sent out 20,000 iron cavalry to charge. The sound of horse hooves shook the earth. The two sides had already collided, and in an instant, the sound of killing filled the air. Qin Yan narrowed his eyes as he looked down the city and asked, "Big brother, who do you think will win?" Lin Muyu's voice was very calm. "Oh, so confident, big brother?" Qin Yan smiled faintly. Lin Muyu moved her dry lips and gripped the hilt of her sword tightly. She said, "The 50,000 main forces of the Yangwei Legion were brought back from Fire Halberd City by Marquis Wei. They have been through many battles. Although the 70,000 people on Man-Man's side are well-equipped, most of them have never participated in a real battle. At most, they have participated in the massacre in Lanyan City. There is a great disparity in combat power. The Yangwei Legion will definitely win, and the defeat of the Iha country's army is only a matter of time." Qin Yan nodded and looked deeply into the distance. Chen Han cupped his fists and said, "Great Deacon, the temple camp's 1,000 men are ready and can move out at any time. When do we leave the city?" "Without the Marquis's orders, we cannot act on our own." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "Let's wait a bit longer. I feel uneasy in my heart. I keep feeling that something bad is going to happen. Everyone should remain cautious." After fighting fiercely for nearly half a day, the 20,000 cavalrymen of the Iha country were cut up by the Iron Infantry Camp and the Divine Bow Camp. They had already lost their original momentum. One by one, the cavalrymen were pierced by spears from all directions. They screamed and died in the battle formation. When Man-Man sent out 50,000 infantrymen, they were blocked by the Tomahawk Battalion of the Yangwei Legion. The Tomahawk Battalion were all strong soldiers with long axes in their hands. Some of the axes were sharp enough to split heavy shields. For a while, the two sides were in a stalemate. In the afternoon, when the sun was setting, the heavenly cavalry took a detour to the west to launch an attack. When their bodies were bathed in the sun, the Iha country's army could not look directly at the blazing sun behind them. In an instant, the formation had collapsed to the point that it could not be contained. Coupled with the attack of the Iron Infantry Camp, the 70,000 soldiers of the Iha country were instantly defeated. "We won. We won," Qin Yan said with some excitement. "Yes, we won." Lin Muyu's face was indescribably calm, as if this victory had nothing to do with her. Shen Han said, "Great Deacon, the Marquis has ordered us to kill them. Should we go out of the city to kill them?" Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, "Go out of the city to help clean up the battlefield. Don't go after them." But Shen Han was stunned and said, "This is a great opportunity for us to make contributions. Great Deacon, haven't you read the reward and punishment decree of the Empire Army? Those who kill 1 will be promoted to sergeant, 2 will be promoted to sergeant, 10 will be promoted to centurion, and 100 will be promoted to chiliarch. Those who kill 1,000 will be promoted to captaincy. With the cultivation of the Great Deacon, it should not be a problem for you to kill 100 of them, right? Moreover, the Iha country has been defeated. Lingdong Province and Tongtian Province will soon become our territory. No one can stop the Yangwei Legion anymore." "All right then." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Shen Han, you lead 500 people out of the city to kill the defeated Iha country army. The rest of you stay with me in Winter Frost City. Don't act on your own." When night fell, Shen Han came back with nearly 100 heads of the Iha country soldiers. Most of the heads were hung under the necks of the horses of the Holy Temple Battalion. Lin Muyu rode the horse slowly in the messy battlefield outside the city. Torches were lit up and a large number of soldiers of the Empire Army were cleaning up the battlefield. There were even people fighting for the heads of the Iha country soldiers. In the end, they would split the heads in half with an axe and each person would take half of the head back to claim the reward. Smelling the thick smell of blood, Lin Muyu held the reins and walked slowly. At the same time, she opened the spiritual pulse technique. Those who entered the detection range of the spiritual pulse technique were all soldiers of the Empire Army. Their breaths were weak. The stronger ones were probably Du Hai, Che Taifeng, and the others. As the vanguard of the Vanguard Army and a master of the sanctuary, Du Hai must be the most powerful person in the Yangwei Legion. In the flickering light, Du Hai dragged a corpse behind him. He laughed at Lin Muyu and said, Great Deacon, you are finally willing to leave the city? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Other people use their heads to claim the reward. Why is Lord Du Hai dragging a whole corpse? This is not an ordinary corpse. Du Hai could not hide the excitement on his face and said, Great Deacon, guess who I have hunted down? Du Hai threw the corpse in front of Lin Muyu and said with a smile, Take a look for yourself. This person's face was a little blurry, but the emblem on his collar was very shiny. The back of the emblem of the Iha country was decorated with 3 golden 6-pointed stars. He was a senior officer of the commander level. Could it be Man Fong? Lin Muyu asked. Du Hai nodded and smiled. Yes, it is Man Fong. Iha country has suffered a crushing defeat. We have killed more than 80% of their 70,000-strong army. This time, let's see if the dogs of Iha country still have the guts to cross the Qinling Mountains and provoke the Empire's army. Speaking of which, the Marquis has good command. He is far from what a brat like Man Fong can compare to. Lin Muyu nodded. Lord Du Hai, quickly go and claim the reward. Du Hai said, Wait, there are still my men behind. Send a batch of heads over immediately. Within a few minutes, a few carriages carrying provisions drove over. The carriages were filled with bloody human heads. Lin Muyu stretched her neck to take a look and could not help but feel her heart thumping wildly. She said, These were all killed by Lord Du Hai? A Chiliarch smiled proudly and said, Lord Du Hai took the lead and led the army to kill close to 10,000 traders of Iha country. It is enough for him to deserve the title of Top 1,000 Soldiers. Lin Muyu could not help but smile. She cupped her fists and said, Then I will congratulate Lord Du Hai in advance. After returning to Lanyan City, Highness Yin will naturally promote you back to the position of commander. Du Hai beamed and said, Many thanks for Head Deacon's auspicious words. When you are free, Head Deacon must put in a few good words for me in front of Highness Yin. All right. Since there is nothing else, I will bring my brothers to continue patrolling. All right. Riding away, the patrolling waist token hanging on Lin Muyu's waist swayed slowly. It was laughable that the temple head deacon's role in this battle was actually as simple as patrolling the city after the battle. It seemed like Min Yulin had no intention of letting Lin Muyu lead the army to battle. He had completely used this head deacon with extraordinary cultivation as a grain transport officer. Qin Yen was somewhat indignant. The fire serpent spear in his hand was surrounded by flames, but there was nothing he could do. Shen Han, on the other hand, brought the heads to receive the rewards. The night wind was cold. Lin Muyu took a deep breath, but he could only inhale the smell of blood. He seemed to have gotten used to it. After patrolling around the city once, nothing unusual happened. Troops of the Yangwei Legion returned to Winterfrost City from afar with the heads, and their faces were full of joy. Until late at night, there was still no sign of the Iron Step camp returning. In the flickering flames, a group of cavalrymen of the Heaven Cavalry Army galloped over. Lin Muyu immediately went forward to greet them. The other party also recognized him. An officer with the rank of centurion said respectfully, Head Deacon, what's the matter? Lin Muyu asked, Has the Iron Step camp led by General Feng of the Chariot and Iron Army returned? Not yet. They chased us from quite a distance, and their speed of return is rather slow. Maybe they will return tomorrow morning. Got it? You have worked hard. The other party cupped his fists and said with a smile, Not at all. We will go back to the city to record the military merits. All right. After watching this group of people leave, Qin Yen couldn't help but ask, Big brother, are you worried about the Iron Step camp? But the Iron Step camp has a total of 20,000 people. Even if some of them were lost during the day, there are at least 15,000 of them. In addition, they have been in battle for a long time. Don't worry, no one can do anything to them. Ah Yen, have you forgotten that our grain transport team was ambushed and annihilated? 2,000 people died silently. No matter how strong the Iron Step camp is, how strong can they be? Big brother, are you worried about those monsters? Lin Muyu nodded and looked at the sky. Dark clouds covered the sky, and there was no light. She said, "I'm afraid it's going to rain soon. Let's go back to the city." Chapter 343. The city was brightly lit, and laughter and curses could be heard everywhere. In the square, countless heads were piled up. Under the torches, the civilian staff in the army were recording the number of heads the soldiers had beheaded. These were all military achievements, which had to be redeemed after returning to Lanyan City. For example, Du Hai's military achievements were enough for him to be promoted to the rank of commander. "Young general." In the crowd, Su Ying saw Lin Muyu and walked over with a smile. "Young general, you didn't leave the city to pursue them?" Lin Muyu shook her head. "General Su, the Iron Infantry camp hasn't returned yet. Maybe it's because he's been chasing her for a long time." Su Ying smiled. "Don't worry. The Iron Infantry camp has 20,000 elites and can be called the best infantry in the world. No one is a match for them in this desolate land. Maybe. I want to see the marquis." "Yes, I'll go with you." "Okay." When Lin Muyu and Su Ying arrived at the Castellan Hall, Min Zhan, Wang Shi, Su Wenin, and the others were there as well. Everyone was drinking and celebrating. Even Min Yulin had drunk some wine and looked drunk. When he saw Lin Muyu, he smiled and said, "Young general, what else do you have to say? Although your battle with Long Qianlin in Lanyan City was indeed outstanding, what about today's victory in Winterfrost City? Young general, are you still worried about those monsters?" Lin Muyu frowned. "You're drunk? I came down to tell you one thing. The Iron Infantry camp hasn't returned yet." "Oh." Min Yulin was startled and sobered up a little. "Why hasn't Che Taifeng returned yet?" Min Zhan cupped his fists. "Father, Che Taifeng led the Iron Infantry camp too deep into the city in order to kill more Iha rebels. The ground is slippery in the middle of the night. Perhaps the Iron Infantry camp is camped outside." "No." Min Yulin's face turned serious. "If they were camped outside, they would have reported to me. But they didn't, so there must be something wrong. Min Zhan, send the Sky Cavalry scouts out of the city to look for the Iron Infantry camp. Once they find them, report to me immediately. Understood?" Min Zhan nodded. "I'll do it right away. Great Deacon." Min Yulin's face was still glowing as he smiled. "Let's sit down and have a drink. Although it's early summer, the Winter Ridge province is too cold. How about a drink to warm up your body?" Lin Muyu did not decline. She sat down and drank a few cups of wine before she stood up. "Marquis, I'm on duty today. I'll be patrolling the city with the Temple Battalion now. Once the Iron Step camp has any news, I will immediately send someone to inform you." "Thank you, Marquis." After Lin Muyu left, Wang Shi's eyes turned cold and he said, "Marquis, this Lin Muyu is only so arrogant because Her Highness entrusts him. Today, he didn't even dare to leave the city. What a disgrace." How could the former emperor have such a cowardly godson? Min Yulin waved his hand and said with a smile, "That's not the case. General Wang, you can see that this person is very meticulous. In the Yangwei army, I'm afraid he is the only one who has been paying attention to the Iron Step camp. Alas, Che Taifeng is too greedy. I guess we won't see the Iron Step camp return until tomorrow morning." Wang Shi pondered and asked again, "Marquis, what should we do with the heads of the Iha country's traitors?" "Hang them all on the city wall. Let the people of Winterfrost City see what happens when they submit to the Iha country." "Yes." The night wind was cold. In the second half of the night, Lin Muyu fell asleep under the battlement of the city wall with the dragon's spiritual sword in his arms. He did not know how long he had slept. Suddenly, someone woke him up. "Big brother, wake up. What's wrong?" Lin Muyu opened her eyes and realized that a simple tent had been set up above her head. It was raining all around and the rainwater was splashing on the ground, washing away the traces of blood. Qin Yan said, "It's daybreak, but the Iron Step camp still hasn't returned." "Still haven't returned?" Lin Muyu frowned and asked, "Did any letters come back?" That's strange. Logically, There should be one messenger bird for every 1,000 people. There are more than 10,000 people in the Iron Step camp. Could it be that not a single messenger bird came back? Maybe it's because of the rain, so the messenger bird's wings are wet and unable to fly. I see. At this moment, a rider suddenly came from afar. A messenger shouted, "Marquis, someone is coming from afar. He says he has a gift for the Marquis." Mingyulin was wearing a pure black cloak. He stood on the city wall and asked coldly, "How many people? What gift?" "Only one person. As for what the gift is, I don't know." "Let him come over." In the drizzle, a man came on horseback. He was wearing a straw raincoat and holding a black box in his hand. He did not enter the city. He dismounted outside the city and respectfully placed the box on the ground. He then raised his head and smiled at Mingyulin. His face was very handsome, but his eyes were full of ridicule and contempt. He jumped on his horse and galloped away. "What's in the box?" "Sky Cavalry, send 10 men to capture this man." "Yes." A captain stepped forward. The moment he opened the box, his face turned ashen. He took several steps back and trembled as he looked up at the city wall. The Marquis, what is it?" Mingyulin's voice was full of majesty. The captain said with a trembling voice, "It's Che Taifeng General Feng." "What?" Mingyulin turned pale with fright. He jumped down from the city wall and landed on the ground surrounded by fighting energy. He looked into the box and saw Che Taifeng's head lying inside. It's over. Mingyulin took several steps back and murmured, "The Iron Step camp is finished, Father." Min Zhan galloped over and asked, "Father, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Mingyulin held up the box and said, "I was too careless. Pass down the order to seal off all the cities in Winterfrost City. No one is allowed to enter or leave. I want to see who could destroy my Iron Step camp." The war drums thundered and the city gates closed. Mingyulin slowly walked up the city wall with the box. When he passed by Lin Muyu, he glanced at him but did not say anything. The 20,000 men of the Iron Step camp were his flesh and blood. Now that Che Taifeng was dead, the Iron Step camp would most likely be gone as well. Mingyulin's mind was in a mess. What kind of person could kill 20,000 warriors of the Iron Step camp in one night? Lin Muyu opened his spirit pulse incantation and closed his eyes. Not long after, a strong aura appeared a few kilometers away. He shivered and said, "They're here." "What's here, brother?" Qin Yan asked. Lin Muyu said, "Those monsters are here. Get ready to fight. Yen, go to the city wall and bring up our boxes. Everyone in the temple camp will be equipped with white drill arrows." As she spoke, Lin Muyu sprinted in Mingyulin's direction. She caught up to him and said respectfully, "Marquis." "What's the matter, Grand Deacon?" Mingyulin looked much older. "They're here," Lin Muyu said in a low voice. "I know, the real elites of the Iha nation are here," Mingyulin said through gritted teeth. "No, it's not the Iha nation. It's those monsters," Lin Muyu said in a low voice. "Monsters?" Wang Shi couldn't help but laugh. "Grand Deacon, do you still insist on your monster theory? Do you think those monsters are the ones who destroyed the Iron Step camp?" Lin Muyu nodded. "That's right." Wang Shi wanted to say something more, but Mingyulin raised his hand and said, "Pass down my order. The whole city is on guard and prepare for battle. No one is allowed to leave the city without my order." The drizzle grew heavier, and in the distance, black shadows could be vaguely seen, but it was difficult to distinguish them. When the rain stopped and the clouds parted, everyone in the city was shocked by what they saw. In the distance, there was a group of humans, or rather, they could not be considered humans. These people were ugly, and their bodies were covered in hard armor. Their hands were in the shape of sharp claws, and there were shells and wings on their backs. They held weapons in their right hands, and in their left, they held a human head. Almost every monster held a human head in their hand. "What are these things?" Min Zhan asked through gritted teeth. "Are these the things that destroyed the Iron Step camp?" Min Zhan walked up to Lin Muyu and said respectfully, "Grand Deacon, are these the monsters you mentioned?" Yes, they're exactly the same as the ones I saw that night. Lin Muyu nodded. Wang Shi narrowed his eyes and said, "It looks like there are only 5,000 of them. We don't need to be afraid." Du Hai cupped his fists and said, "Mari, give me 10,000 men. This general is willing to leave the city to fight these cockroach-like things." Min Yulin glanced at Du Hai and asked, "Great General wishes to fight these unknown monsters in the wilderness? If we wait for them to attack the city, I'm afraid we'll be forced into a passive position." "That's fine." Min Yulin sat on his chair and looked at the monster army in the distance. He said calmly, "General Wang Shi, General Su Wenin, each of you will send 10,000 men. General Du Hai will lead them out of the city to fight. In addition, Grand Deacon Lin Muyu will lead 1,000 men from the Temple Battalion out of the city to support the great general." Du Hai and Lin Muyu cupped their fists together. Yes. Military orders were like a mountain and could not be disobeyed. Even though Lin Muyu was unwilling to leave the city to fight the monsters that Du Hai called cockroaches, she still had to obey. The northern city gates opened and the imperial army once again left the city. Du Hai was dressed in golden armor and walked majestically at the front of the army. At the age of 44, he was in the prime of his life. Furthermore, after stepping into the Saint Realm, his strength had multiplied. He was at the peak of his life, yet he had to face this inexplicable battle. The trampling of the warhorses and foot soldiers turned the ground into a pile of mud after the rain. Lin Muyu urged her horse forward slowly, bringing the Temple Battalion to cover the rear. Qin Yen and Shen Han followed closely behind, their faces filled with excitement. They did not have the spirit pulse technique and had never fought with these cockroaches before. Naturally, they would not understand Lin Muyu's worries. Chapter 344. The monsters all had blood-red eyes as they spread out in the wilderness. There was no formation or order to speak of. However, their bodies were huge, and the weapons in their hands were also incomparably huge. It was a little scary. After seeing the human army leave the city, the monsters couldn't help but let out hissing sounds, as if they were angry. They all raised their hands and threw the heads of the iron infantry camp soldiers out. It seemed like they didn't need to use the heads to claim military merits. "Raise your shields!" With a loud shout from Du Hai, the soldiers in the front row all raised their shields high above their heads. Immediately, the human heads hit the shields and bounced off. Although they did not cause any damage, the imperial soldiers all looked at each other in dismay. These monsters could throw human heads hundreds of meters away in an instant. How much strength did they have? A bunch of mobs. Du Hai frowned and said, "Spear and shield formation. Archers, get ready. Cavalry, get ready to attack." After all, he was once the commander of the Tianchong army. Although the Tianchong army had been completely annihilated, Du Hai's commanding ability was still very good. As the spear and shield formation slowly approached, the 5,000 monsters seemed to feel the pressure. One by one, they roared angrily, raised their weapons and rushed down the small hill, charging over like a black mass. "Archers, release!" Du Hai ordered loudly. The archers at the back of the shield formation all raised their hands and fired. A dense barrage of arrows soared into the sky and fell into the crowd of monsters. However, the heads, necks, and chests of these monsters were all covered in hard armor. The arrows actually bounced off the monsters. Moreover, their running speed was frighteningly fast. They rushed to the front of the formation like a whirlwind and swung the heavy war hammers, iron awls, spears, and other clumsy weapons in their hands. Ping, ping, ping. The shields and the bodies of the soldiers flew into the air. The monstrous strength of these monsters was far beyond what humans could contend against. A monster wielding an iron spear quickly pierced its spear into the chest of a shield bearer. It then leaped up with the shield bearer's corpse and bit another soldier. It opened its mouth and tore off a large piece of flesh from the other soldier's neck. The surrounding soldiers all used their spears and sharp swords to stab at the monster. Unfortunately, their weapons all bounced off the monster's hard armor, unable to cut through. "Bastard!" In a fit of rage, Du Hai spurred his horse and charged forward with his sword in hand. His long sword was filled with dou qi. With a sudden slash, the long sword cut into the back of a cockroach, but it was unable to cut through. The monster turned around in pain, howling as it swung its battle axe at Du Hai. In a fit of rage, Du Hai roared, "Chaos of the 1,000 armies!" Fresh blood spurted out. This monster was directly split into two from the back by Du Hai. The two halves of its body spasmed on the ground. It was not completely dead yet. Du Hai raised his head to look, only to see his magnificent army being massacred by over 5,000 monsters. Not only were these cockroaches impervious to swords and spears, they also had astonishing strength. They used clumsy blunt weapons to kill people. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Du Hai was actually at a loss. How many monsters could he kill? Killing one just now had consumed nearly 10% of his dou qi. If he were to kill more, he would probably die from exhaustion. What should we do? He looked up and saw the soldiers of the temple camp charging towards him. Change to the white diamond arrows, aim and shoot. Lin Muyu ordered loudly. The soldiers of the temple camp were all staff members of the temple. They were adept with bows and horses, and naturally were good archers. In an instant, countless white diamond arrows were shot out, and in the next moment, blood splattered everywhere. The 7 to 8 monsters at the front were pierced with arrows and died, but there were even more that continued to charge into the crowd with arrows. Unsheathe your weapons, Ki. Shen Han pulled out his sword and shouted. Lin Muyu flew at the front of the crowd, and was the first to arrive in the midst of the chaos. Her pear blossom spear gleamed coldly, and with a poochie sound, it pierced through the heart of a monster from the back. Her dou qi exploded, and directly shattered the heart. The pear blossom spear had been tempered with white diamond, and was extremely sharp. The golden gourd vines shot out, and coiled around the legs of a few monsters. Qin Yen, Shen Han and the rest flew past, and the heads of the monsters flew up, but there were too many of them, and not everyone had the cultivation of heaven realm like Lin Muyu, Qin Yen and Du Hai. When the 100 monsters charged into the temple camp, another massacre began. Lin Muyu watched as a temple staff member had his head bitten off by a monster, his brains splattering everywhere. He then saw a group of helpless temple camp soldiers being pierced by spears, and all he could do was to wave his pear blossom spear and kill the monsters one by one. The dou qi in his body was greatly depleted, and he had to use all his strength to pierce through the carapace of the monsters. If not, even the white diamond-tempered spear tip would be a stretch. The human soldiers around him screamed, and the rate of casualties was too fast. Lin Muyu pulled out the dragon spirit sword, and after slicing off the head of a cockroach, he was stained with the blood of the cockroach, and quickly wiped it away and shouted, "Commander-in-Chief, let's retreat, if not we will all die outside the city." Du Hai had a look of helplessness. The Marquis has yet to strike the drums to retreat. What should we do? Lin Muyu hurriedly looked up at the city. There was a chaotic battle below, but there seemed to be no movement from the top of the city. In an instant, Lin Muyu's heart turned cold. Could it be that Min Yulin was planning to let Du Hai and himself die outside the city? Just at this time, a strange woo-woo sound came from the hill in the distance, and in the next moment, another large group of monsters came out, and there were over 10,000 of them. Oh no! Lin Muyu's heart was in a mess. In less than 20 minutes of battle, the temple camp had lost at least half of their men, and if this carried on, the entire army would be wiped out. Right at this time, a monster came charging at them. This monster was a little strange. It was riding on a sturdy battle wolf, and the wolf was blind in one eye. This monster held a hammer in its hand, and its face was filled with murderous intent. With a raise of its hand, it smashed the head of a temple camp soldier into pieces, and with a roar, it charged at Lin Muyu, as though it could see that Lin Muyu was the one who had killed the most people in this group. With the wall of the gourd in front of him, the mystic tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were activated, and Lin Muyu had focused all of her strength on defense. Through the spirit pulse technique, she could sense that this monster was even stronger than a sage. The moment the hammer landed, the wall of the gourd shattered, and Lin Muyu was sent flying from the back of her horse. She felt the blood in her chest churning. She had already expended a lot of her battle chi, and now she was facing such a powerful monster. How could she win? Qin Yen shouted and charged forward with his spear, but he was also forced back in one strike. Lin Muyu turned around and stood up with her sword and shouted, Yen, don't fight it head-on, bring everyone and retreat back to the city, don't care about the marquee orders, we cannot all die here. Qin Yen and Shinhan immediately led the temple camp and charged back. Lin Muyu lowered her body and raised the intensity of her battle chi to its peak. She gritted her teeth, and her sword was filled with the glow of the golden gourd, and at the same time, the power of the god-binding chains was hidden within. She leaped up and slashed out. 5 elements, 8 wastelands extermination. This monster leader could not speak, and only roared, and the thorny warhammer flew towards the dragon spirit sword. Was it going to fight head-on? The air surged, and golden light shot into the sky. The power of Lin Muyu's sword was not weak, but the opponent seemed to be stronger. After the dragon spirit sword cut into the hammer by nearly 20 centimeters, a tyrannical force rushed over, causing Lin Muyu's arms to go numb, and the sword flew out of her hands. This monster leader urged his battle wolf forward, his eyes filled with killing intent, and reached out to grab Lin Muyu's waist. He wanted to capture her alive. Of course, Lin Muyu wasn't going to allow herself to be captured without a fight. She sprang into the air and abruptly kicked her opponent's wrist, using the momentum to tumble to the ground. She then raised her hand, which was conjured up by flames, and stabbed her dragon spirit sword toward the monster leader's arm. A loud thump rang out as the dragon spirit sword pierced through the energy barrier of his black battle armor, but it was only able to cut into his flesh for 3 minutes before it was unable to penetrate any further, and it was sent flying by the recoil. Roar! The monster leader looked at the injury on his arm, and his eyes were bloodshot, and he became more and more violent. He seemed to know how to use the power of his battle chi, even though it was black and evil battle chi. He gripped the warhammer with both hands, and glared at Lin Muyu with bloodshot eyes, as if he had already made up his mind to kill her. Lin Muyu gripped the dragon spirit sword, and her battle chi revolved around her body. She panted heavily as she looked at the imperial soldiers in the distance, and yelled, Du Hai, why are you still here? Are you planning to get all of us killed? Du Hai rushed over with his saber in hand, and yelled, You go first, I'll cover you. The monster leader struck with a mighty blow, and heaven and earth seemed to have lost their color. The warhammer seemed to have torn apart the plane of space, and it actually carried traces of lightning. Lin Muyu secretly shouted that things were not going well. She held the sword in her right hand, and wisps of 7 luminaries Xian energy gathered on the blade. At the same time, she opened her left hand, and immediately condensed a 7-colored ribbon, which was the light of the second style of the astral arts, astral chain. In the next moment, she waved her left hand, and the astral chain transformed into the power of thousands of astral domains, and pounced towards the opponent. At the same time, she held the sword with both hands, and directly blasted out the power of the 6 luminaries' heavenly calamity. Boom! The power of both sides was too strong, and it actually formed the impact of a domain storm, causing the surrounding monsters and human soldiers to retreat. A mouthful of blood flowed out from the corner of Lin Muyu's mouth. He flew out like a kite with a broken string, and fell into the mud in a sorry state. The originally pure white sacred temple armor had become a patch of mud in the blink of an eye. On the other hand, the monster leader wasn't any better. Together with the war wolf, he retreated dozens of meters, and the hand that was holding the warhammer was bleeding, splashing onto the ground with a pitter-patter. At this moment, Du Hai fiercely slashed the monster leader's neck from behind, and shouted loudly, Lin Muyu, why aren't you leaving yet? Scram, you're the foster son of the former emperor, your life is much more valuable than mine. Lin Muyu stood up in a sorry state, and found a war horse in the chaotic battlefield. He flipped over and rode the horse towards the direction of the city. Looking back, Du Hai and close to 10,000 human soldiers were howling miserably in the battle formation, dying one after another. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.